Part 32. Evolution begins with Resident Evil. Author, Wei Tongmiao. Chapter 319. After leaving the sewer, Kellen and Wan Qianglin could finally breathe a breath of fresh air. Their next goal was to go to the organization's research institute. As for the savior organization that failed to find Crane and others, they did not pursue them out of the sewers. They temporarily put their hatred in their hearts and wrote it down in their notebooks. Where's the person who came to pick him up? Crane came to the pickup location given by Amir, but didn't see anyone, and asked strangely. Wan Qianglin walked around the room and didn't see any information or supplies left by the contact person, which was also strange. Amir would contact the institute to send someone to come out to meet him after she and others set off. In her opinion, it was impossible for people from her organization to miss their appointment. Could it be that there was an accident at the research institute? She had no way to contact the institute like Amir, so she immediately prepared the worst in her heart. Seeing that Wan Qianglin did not answer his words, Crane noticed his girlfriend's worries, walked over, patted his girlfriend on the shoulder, and said, "Don't worry, the FBC and other organizations did not discover the existence of the institute before we came here. I don't believe it. In just over a day, they discovered and captured the entire institute. There are many defensive measures in the research institute, and they are not easy to break into." Wan Qianglin replied, "That's what I say, but what if the research institute is breached internally?" "You mean the virus leaked?" Although the institute said that the initial virus leak was an accident, judging from subsequent events, it may be that there was a mole. The mole? But the people in the organization. Wan Qianglin raised her hand to stop her boyfriend from speaking. "I haven't finished speaking yet. This mole does not refer to spies from other forces or the like. It's just that I'm worried that those crazy researchers deliberately leaked the virus for combat testing, and then the Harlan virus was obtained by hostile organizations and used for evil. Then without further ado, let's go to the research institute." Upon hearing this, Crane immediately said anxiously. Wan Qianglin nodded and took Kellen to the tourist attractions in the old city of Harlan City. The main entrance to the mysterious organization's research institute is in the basement of a building next to the Harran Temple. In fact, the Harran Temple is not only an altar used by the Son of the Sun tribe to worship the Sun God, but also a cemetery for the Virgin Mary of the past. However, Wan Qianglin and her organization did not start from this underground cemetery to dig out space that could accommodate a huge secret research institute. First of all, the huge equipment used for excavation cannot be hidden from people's eyes, and the excavators transporting soil in and out of tourist attractions will make people suspicious. Therefore, the starting point of the construction of this research institute is not under the Harran Temple, but starting from the secret evacuation channel mentioned before, and gradually digging downward, while digging all the way to the side of the Harran Temple. Mayor Harlan during this period was a member of a mysterious organization, and some ground vibrations and strange sounds caused by underground operations were covered up. As for why so much effort was expended to establish the research institute below the city of Harlan, this involves the special ability of the Holy Mother. That ability is not a myth or superstition, but a mysterious phenomenon that actually exists. In order to study the Madonna, the research institute was built next to the underground cemetery so that fresh corpses could be obtained for research as soon as possible. Even during the research process of the Harlan virus, there was a situation where a living Virgin Mother was directly abducted for experiments, which attracted the attention of the Void cult. Crane and Wan Qianglin left the receiving point and did not notice a small tail following behind them. Amir followed the route map given to Luo Guang before, passed through the sewers, and also came to the old city. He didn't take the same route as Luo Guang, so naturally he didn't know that Luo Guang had cleaned up a night devil's nest. There was only one road in the road map with the night demon's lair, so Luo Guang could be said to have won the lottery. Not long after arriving in the old city, he took out his walkie-talkie, adjusted a new channel, and contacted his contact person. The person who responded was wearing a gray hooded robe, and he was the Void Cult believer. It was not Amir who approached the Void Cult on his own initiative at the beginning, but the followers of the Void Cult who received instructions from the new mother and came directly after the first biological crisis in Harlan City. Although Amir knew that the Holy Mother's ability was real, he was still surprised when the Void Cult came to him and told him what he was doing. However, this virgin is not omniscient and omnipotent. Through enlightenment, she only knows that Amir is looking for a secret research institute. She does not know the relationship between Amir and the research institute, nor why he is looking for the research institute. At that time, Amir was very surprised and stunned, but he was thinking quickly in his heart and quickly made up a reason for looking for the institute: revenge. His friend died in the first biohazard incident, but the FBC did not find the truth about the incident. The announcement also fabricated the story of them thwarting overseas biochemical terrorist forces creating a biohazard in Harlan City. In this regard, the followers of the Void sect did not have any doubts, but expressed their willingness to cooperate. The reason was that the bodies of the Virgin Mary of their sect had been stolen, and there were also incidents of the Virgin Mary being kidnapped. This time, the Holy Mother successfully avoided being kidnapped with the desperate help of the believers. Later, it was a blessing in disguise. Afterwards, she received enlightenment from the Sun God and finally knew the identity of the enemy of the Void sect. However, the enlightenment only stopped there. They didn't know which faction this secret research institute belonged to, which made Amir feel relieved. If his organization knew that the Void Cult had discovered the name of his organization, a nuclear bomb might be detonated in Harlan City, and then a certain terrorist force would have to bear a blame that did not belong to them. Why use a nuclear bomb instead of a research institute to self-destruct? That's because their organization is not like Umbrella Corporation, which follows the self-destruction procedure in its own research institute. Apart from anything else, who would work on a bomb with peace of mind? Those researchers are not idiots who read books blindly. Because it was the result of the Virgin Mary's enlightenment, even if Amir said that he had no clue for the time being, the Void Cult did not dislike the other party, but invited the other party to join the investigation and shared the content of the Virgin Mary's enlightenment. Later, he and the Void Cult became a cooperative relationship, but he did not want the Void Cult to get the research materials in the research institute, so he did not have a deep communication with the other party afterwards. In his opinion, the Virgin Mary is not much different from a madman to some extent. However, he once helped the Virgin Mary avoid a kidnapping, so the Void Cult had a good impression of Amir. After Amir contacted the other party to learn about the latest situation in the old city, he went to the location of Kellen and the others alone through the tracker. In this way, even if Kellen and the others found out that he was following them, he had an excuse to protect them. As for why he didn't tell them, it was because he received an order that he could evacuate, so he was actually disobeying the order. But evacuating from the secret passage of the Institute is still evacuating. As a formal member, he would not be punished severely even if he knew these things that he shouldn't know. Anyway, the Institute here will be abandoned soon. And this is the excuse he prepared to use to deal with the blame from the superiors of the organization. He did not lie when he said to the head of the Institute before leaving the tower that the goods are on the road. The Institute did send the field staff of the Institute on standby in the old city to meet Kellen and the others. These field staff are not formal employees of the mysterious organization. They don't know the name of their organization, nor do they know the existence and exact location of the Institute. The reason for meeting them is to provide equipment supplies for Juan Kyanglin and others, and to confirm that the first phase of the evacuation plan has been successfully completed. But the meeting people and those equipment and weapons were intercepted by the Void Cult. This was not Amir's plan. Because of the confidentiality regulations, he only knew that someone would pick him up, but he didn't know who it was. The Virgin Mary had another revelation that there was a batch of arms somewhere that could help believers overcome disasters. It happened not long after the contact person received the task of the Institute, so the contact person and weapons and equipment were all captured by the Void Church. As for the contact person, he knew nothing about the Institute and had no use, so the Virgin Mary asked him to join the Void Church and become a devout believer who prayed to the Sun God 24 hours a day until he died on the futon. Amir came to the vicinity of Wan Kyunglin's pickup point alone and just saw Wan Kyunglin and the others walk out of the convenience store. With Kellen and Wan Kyunglin leading the way, it was easier for him to follow them. The only thing to pay attention to was to keep quiet. It can be said that if he was a step later, he would not be able to follow them so easily. The current time is 3:30 in the afternoon. Although Kellen and Wan Kyunglin each held an assault rifle in their hands, they basically used melee weapons, water pipes, to deal with those zombies. The reason is naturally to keep quiet. There were many more zombies in the old city than the ones they encountered when they sneaked into the sewers of Harlan City. Once the gun was fired, they would have no way to escape. Amir, who was following behind, encountered a fish that slipped through the net, but he was more familiar with how to survive in this place than Wan Kyunglin and the others. Before Wan Kyunglin and the others turned back, he dragged the troublesome zombie into the alley, then broke its neck and gently put it on the ground. But just this time to let Clan and the others out of sight, when he poked his head out of the alley to confirm the other party's position, Clan and Wan Kyunglin had disappeared. However, Amir did not rashly run out of the alley and walk to the place where Clan and the others disappeared because of this. Because he knew that if the other party really found him, he would most likely stay at the corner and wait for him to come over and ambush him. So he first looked around to confirm that his position was safe, then listened carefully to the sounds around him, and after confirming that there were no zombies running around, he took out the tracker. Sure enough, the other party hid at the corner of the street in front and did not move. After confirming this, he put the assault rifle on his back, then looked up at the second-floor balcony of the house next door, confirming the height in his mind. Amir ran directly to the wall, stepped on the gap in the stone wall, and then climbed the balcony fence with both hands. Then he stepped on the fence with both legs, jumped up, and climbed to the rooftop on the third floor. For the sake of safety, Amir continued to check on the situation of Clan and the other person. The other party stayed where he was, as if competing with him in patience. He was not worried that Wan Kyunglin would throw away the tracker, because the tracker was hidden in the key. This key is about the same size as other USB flash drives, and the contents of the shell do not fill the entire internal space, so he can stuff a tracker into the key. Looking at the rooftop in the distance, there are two biters standing there blankly. Amir drew out the two daggers at his waist, which were his most skilled melee weapons. Born in parkour, he jumped directly to the rooftop opposite. He landed silently, and the two daggers in his hands were already thirsty and pierced into the enemy's brain, greedily sucking the enemy's brain and blood. This chapter is not over yet, please click on the next page to continue reading. In this way, Amir slowly approached Kellen and his men. But he didn't know whether his plan was known to the other party. When he took out the tracker for the third time to check the other party's position, he found that the other party continued to move. Kellen, who was on the road again, asked Wan Kyunglin behind him. In the end, no one came. Because Wan Kyunglin said that she felt that there was always a sight behind her staring at her, so she stopped and hid to try to lure the other party to appear. The result told her that she was too suspicious, but Wan Kyunglin still felt that her intuition was correct, but the other party was just very cautious. There was still a long distance from the temple, and it would be dark when they got there, so they walked while looking for a suitable place to spend the night. Suddenly, a group of people appeared from a corner in front. Those people had a little fear on their faces. They were all wearing gray robes and were very close to each other. The young woman surrounded by the crowd was holding an incense burner emitting a faint blue mist, so they walked very slowly. These people were the same group of people that Luo Guang had met before. After Luo Guang kidnapped the priest, they were scared by the zombies and ran around. But later they found that they would not be attacked by zombies, so they returned to the place where the priest was kidnapped, regrouped, and took the still burning incense burner. They did not go to find the priest, but walked towards the main altar of the Void Church according to the priest's previous instructions. They walked on the road openly, but were not attacked by the zombies around them, which made Clan and the others confused. The two looked at each other and knew each other's decision. They walked straight towards those people and planned to ask what was going on. When those people saw the man with 2 guns appear on the street, they immediately raised their hands. The man holding the incense burner looked at the people around him, and then he raised the incense burner to his head with both hands. "Are they from Gaul who are here for tourism?" Clan said as he drew out his dagger and killed a biter that was coming over. Seeing Clan's fierce look, the believers dared not move, fearing that they would anger him. "Who are you?" Clan and his friends had heard a little about the Void Cult in Harlan City, but they did not connect it with the people in front of them. Wang Qianglin watched Clan talking to the other party, but did not interrupt for the time being, and carefully observed the situation of those people. "We are new believers of the Void Cult," a middle-aged greasy uncle with a Mediterranean hairstyle said tremblingly with fear in his tone. Evolution begins with Resident Evil. Author, Wei Tongmiao. Chapter 320. Go this way. After asking the other party's identity, Crane asked the others to go the way they came before. "The enemies here have been cleared by them, and there won't be any zombies coming for a while. We need to change places so we can talk slowly." Now Kellen and the others have a lot of questions in their minds. Wang Qianglin nodded and saw Crane's intention. If these people were not attacked by zombies, they should indeed collect intelligence from them. Moreover, these people just said that they are new believers and do not have to face fanatic believers, so it is even better to use clichés. Changing to a safe position, Crane asked, "How did you join the Void Cult?" As soon as he said this, the middle-aged uncle told Crane what happened to them with a look of complaint. They are all ordinary people living in the old city, and they have no special status such as police, firefighters, or officials. The Halan City Games opens with great fanfare, but it has nothing to do with these poor bastards. They have long been locked down in the old city and struggling to survive. Occasionally listening to government broadcasts can only make them more angry at the irresponsible prevarications of the Z. Although they escaped the most dangerous moment in the early stages of the outbreak, life for these people was not easy after that. There is still electricity in the entire city of Harlan, and there is no problem with the water supply system. But after the food at home is eaten, they must face those monsters and get out of the locked door. And these new believers basically met each other at that time. Not everyone has the courage and ability to deal with those zombies. However, with mutual help and through lures and other methods, they achieved 0 kills and 0 casualties, and successfully survived until now. Afterwards, they found a radio station that could send and receive radios and tried to contact the outside world for rescue. As a result, they contacted the Void Sect first. When the Void Cult heard that the other party was a survivor, they showed great enthusiasm and immediately said that they had food and drink there and would not be harassed or attacked by zombies. It was the largest survivor camp in the old city. But if you want to go to them, you must believe in the Void Sect. The Void Cult did not deceive the survivors and made the conditions clear from the beginning. At first, these survivors were not willing to change their beliefs, and they did not know whether what the other party said was true or false, so they did not agree. The people of the Void Sect were professionals and did not continue to promote their religion. Instead, they asked the other party if there was anything they needed help with. The Void Sect has collected a large amount of resources, and naturally has the confidence to help the other party without any effort. This makes the survivors dependent on the Void Cult. If they can get enough food every day without taking risks, why should they go out in fear? Therefore, when they walked on the street again, they had already lost their original vigor and were easily scared away by the zombies. Seeing that the time was ripe, the Void sect began to use various reasons to express that they could no longer provide help. In the end, the pressure of survival forced the survivors to agree to join the Void sect. Then the Void cult sent the priest, asked them to convert to the Void cult on the spot, and took them away. Then there was the matter of Luo Guang abducting the priest. You mean converting on the spot? Doesn't this usually require going to a church or some other place? Crane was a little strange and asked them to explain the situation in detail. According to the other party's account, it was only after he converted to the Void cult that he was not attacked by zombies. This made it difficult for him to believe that it was impossible for those zombies to be followers of the Void sect. Wang Qianglin nodded. This turning point should provide clues to prevent them from being attacked by zombies. The middle-aged uncle felt a little thirsty as he spoke, so he took out a kettle and took a sip of water, then motioned to the young man behind him to continue. There is no hierarchical relationship between them, but it's really hard to let the uncle finish everything, otherwise what if the two fierce people in front of them feel that the others are of no use value? The young man behind him stood up and said, "We converted on the spot. The girl you see is named Nicole." The incense burner in her hand was brought by the priest. The priest's duties are similar to those of a priest. "What's burning in that?" Wang Qianglin pointed at the incense burner and asked. The young man shook his head and said that he didn't know what it was, and then continued to tell the other person the situation at that time. The initiation ceremony was very simple. A group of us sat up around the incense burner, and then the priest kept chanting incantations. When we came to our senses, he said we had become religious. "Wait a minute, what do you mean by coming to your senses?" Crane caught the key words in the other party's words. "It feels like a dream. We dreamed of the Haran temple. Anyway, we were in a trance," another person behind him interjected. The others also answered in a variety of ways, and then they were surprised to find that they all dreamed of the same place. Crane looked at Wang Qianglin. This ability seemed to be related to the Holy Mother. Wang Qianglin nodded. She had the same idea as Crane, then turned to look at the incense burner and said, "What I say next may be a little offensive, but are you hallucinating because of inhaling the blue smoke?" In fact, she was hinting that they were taking the pen. "No, we are not addicted at all, and what market is there for such a unique product that does not make people happy?" The middle-aged uncle seemed very knowledgeable. The Nicole girl defended Lan Wu, "This is not that kind of thing. Without this, we would have been bitten to death by those zombies." "That means you were not attacked by zombies because of the blue mist," Crane confirmed. "This blue mist can indeed protect us from zombie attacks, but even if we leave the range of the blue mist, those who have joined the religion will not be attacked by zombies. The reason why they still move around Lan Wu is for peace of mind." After hearing this, Crane and the others basically figured out that it was the blue mist that prevented zombies from attacking these survivors. As for why you won't be attacked even if you leave, it's naturally because there is blue mist in your body. Thinking about it this way, the composition of this blue mist is very suspicious. It may be a derivative of Harlan virus, or it may be something else. But Wang Qianglin felt that the former was very likely, which made her suspect that the enemy spreading the virus in Harlan City was the Void sect. The motivation is also easy to understand. The Void sect can attract more believers and expand its power. If the Harlan virus spreads around the world, many people will definitely choose to inhale this blue mist that has no shelf life in order to save their lives. If after a period of time, the inhaled blue mist will be expelled by human body metabolism, then believers or others will have to rely on the blue mist provided by the Void sect to survive. Wang Qianglin was thinking about whether she could take this opportunity to investigate the spread of things in Harlan City. At the very least, it is necessary to confirm that the Void cult is not the culprit of spreading the virus, which will greatly improve her mission evaluation. With this in mind, she asked, "There is only one condition for joining the Void cult. Inhale those blue smoke. Are there any requirements for believers?" We don't know the specifics. After the young man finished speaking, the others nodded to express that they really didn't know. Lin, are you planning to join the Void cult? That blue mist may not be a good thing, Crane asked. If his girlfriend really thought so, then he would naturally support her to the end. Hearing this, Wang Qianglin was a little unsure. If she didn't do this well, both of her would be buried in the Void section. No matter how good the evaluation was, it would be meaningless to the dead. So she didn't answer Crane immediately. If you want to join, it's best to contact the Void religion to send someone over, the middle-aged uncle said. We also need a new Void religion priest to lead us. The uncle wanted Crane, the two men with guns, to escort them to the temple. Although it is not attacked by zombies now, zombies are not the only ones who are dangerous in the old city. Let's go directly to the temple. But now it's better to find a place to rest. Wang Qianglin felt that it was not necessary and would instead ask the Void sect to prepare in advance. With the guns in their hands, the new believers naturally followed each other. Amir, who was following them, saw all this scene, but he didn't know what the other party talked about. He only knew that the other party gathered together and then found a place to rest. Therefore, he found a nearby place to spend the night. There was no information, so he did not think about Crane's next plan and planned to act according to the situation. In the temporary overnight stay, Crane and the others rested on both sides of the room separately from the believers. The incense burner also extinguished the blue mist at the request of Crane and the others before entering the room, because Wang Qianglin was worried that she would be infected with the Harlan virus after inhaling the blue mist. Speaking of which, what does the kidnapped priest look like? Both sides remained silent, making the atmosphere a bit awkward, so Crane asked a question. We didn't even see what that person looked like, we were all scared to death, the middle-aged uncle sighed and continued. He was followed by a lot of zombies, and he was shouting loudly, and he was not afraid of attracting more of zombies. What did he yell? Let us run quickly. We don't know how that reckless guy is still alive today. The young man looked angry, feeling that the guy had caused them misery. That young girl Nicole is her girlfriend. Because she peed before, her girlfriend is still in a vacuum state. And he was scared away by zombies, which made his girlfriend think he was unreliable, and now she is angry with him. Crane thought thoughtfully and said, did that person do it on purpose? Otherwise, he could have survived to this day in the old city. He shouldn't have been so reckless, and he couldn't have known that zombies are very sensitive to sounds. The middle-aged uncle immediately replied, that bastard must have done it on purpose. Then he felt that his voice was a bit loud, so he lowered his voice and said, that guy took the priest away without hesitation, but ignored us. It must be a conspiracy against the Void sect, and he may be here to rob believers. The young man immediately catered to the uncle's words and accused the man of being inhumane. Wang Qianglin whispered to Crane, there is something wrong with that person. Crane nodded and whispered in Wang Qianglin's ear, which force do you think it is? Could it be someone from the F.B.C? Or maybe he's an agent from another organization. There weren't many clues, and Wang Qianglin had nothing to guess. The forces in Harlan City are mixed. Crane nodded and sighed, if possible, it would be better for us to leave here quickly. Wang Qianglin knew that Kellen was implying that he did not want to get involved in the Void sect. She was still struggling in her mind. It would be great if she had a strengthening agent. Even if she was surrounded by enemies, she could easily break out of the siege. But no matter what, if we want to go to the research institute, we still have to go to the Void sect headquarters. But the temple is now occupied, which is the troublesome point now, so Clan added. And the Void cult certainly does not only deploy personnel in the temple. With the ability to avoid zombie attacks, the surrounding areas are likely to be under the control of the cult. Those new believers were also whispering, secretly glancing at Clan and the others from time to time, as if they were planning something. Although Clan and the others were whispering, they were always paying attention to the believers and took the initiative to ask, what are you talking about? Knowing that they were seen by the other party, the believers asked cautiously, "Can we change places to rest? Just by ourselves?" Obviously they were afraid to be in the same room with Clan and the others. Those believers saw that Clan and the others did not seem to be hostile to them, so they boldly said this. After discussing for a few words, Kellen and Wan Kyanglin said, "That won't do." When the believers heard this, they looked scared. Their temporary leader, a middle-aged uncle, said, "What are you going to do? We have just joined the Void Church. It's useless for you to take us hostages." This involves what Kellen and the others had just discussed. It is not necessary to join the Void Church, but if you can use the other party's identity to sneak into the territory of the Void Church, it would be a good plan. As long as they enter the Research Institute, the things that follow will naturally come naturally. Clean up the clues and evidence of the Research Institute, and then use the key to open the secret passage and evacuate. But if they are discovered when they enter the Research Institute, it is very likely that the Research Institute will be exposed, so they must be cautious. And these people are all new believers, and there is no loyalty to the Void Church. After all, they don't really believe in the Sun God, they just want to survive. If they are rescued by FBC or other anti-biochemical organizations, it is hard to say whether these people will become Void Church believers in the future. "We don't need you to do anything, just take us to the temple. But you haven't inhaled the blue mist, so you will be attacked by zombies." After the middle-aged uncle finished speaking, the young man followed up and said, "And you are not believers of the Void Church, so they may not let you enter the temple." "What's wrong? The temple is a famous tourist attraction in Harlan City, and it does not belong to any organization." Cran did not correct the mistake in the other party's words. He and Wan Kyanglin did not need to enter the temple. The young man was speechless for a moment, and said stubbornly, "That's what I said, but now is not the usual time. If others say they won't let you in, what else can you do?" Wan Kyanglin patted the M16 assault rifle in her hand, and the meaning was self-evident. "If you use force, we will be expelled from the Void Church," Nicole said nervously. Cran glanced at the other party and said, "In this case, you should cooperate with us obediently and don't be discovered by the other party." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Evolution begins with Resident Evil. Author, Wei Tongmiao. Chapter 321. Unlike Kellen and the others, Luo Guang went directly to the Harlan Temple. With a destination, he also knew the background of the monsters in this biochemical crisis. Anyway, the night was not a threat to him, so he naturally wanted to solve the troubles here as soon as possible. Unlike Wan Kyanglin and Kellen, Luo Guang chopped zombies all the way to the edge of the Void Church's territory. The Void Church believers at the edge of the territory saw Luo Guang chop zombies like cutting melons and vegetables, and did not dare to talk to him. No one came out to say that zombies are also human beings and their rights must be protected. Google searched "can." But the believers did not stay still, but ran to the priest of the Void Church like a flock of birds to report the situation, saying that a macho war god appeared. There are still many zombies in this territory, no wonder the satellite did not find any survivors here. Who would have thought that these believers actually lived with zombies? Waving the newly picked up machete in his hand, the zombie heads in front of Luo Guang fell to the ground one after another. The believers on the road hurried home, and the believers in the room immediately closed the windows when they saw Luo Guang, looking like they were keeping people away. There was also a man who was holding his wife who had turned into a zombie, looking at the locked door nervously, worried that Luo Guang would kick the door open and kill his wife. He didn't relax until he confirmed that Luo Guang's shadow passed by his window, and continued to have sex with his wife. Enough. Luo Guang chopped down a plague demon that rushed over with a knife, and did not stop his actions. The senior bishop of the Void Church was not very smart. He should ask the zombies to stop, otherwise he would definitely not stop attacking. Luo Guang thought so. "Stop fighting," the senior bishop shouted, but the zombies did not attack him, and still focused on Luo Guang. He kicked away the plague demon that rushed over from the front, and then used a backhand knife to split the other plague demon that rushed over from the side into two. The senior bishop was once again ignored and was furious. He had never dared to despise him like this since he became the senior bishop. He waved his hands and commanded his men to catch the trouble-making Luo Guang, completely forgetting the instructions given to him by the Virgin Mary. The two lackeys were shirtless and wore sun god masks, just like the zombies. They stretched out their hands and wanted to capture Luo Guang. But Luo Guang was not used to this group of people. The reason why he changed his face and name was not to let the secular rules restrict him when necessary. Luo Guang leaned down and used a sweeping kick to sweep the two lackeys to the ground. "If you make trouble again, don't blame me for being rude," he said in a deep voice, staring at the senior bishop. The senior bishop took a step back, and then shouted directly that there were enemies coming to make trouble, trying to destroy everyone's peaceful life. Following the words of the senior bishop, the army formed by the Void cult appeared from all directions, including people with guns. Since the other party had sent out a security brigade, Luo Guang didn't need to be polite. He dodged into the alley, went around and jumped down from the roof, and stabbed one of the enemies in the chest with a machete. After landing, he rolled over to avoid the enemy's bullets, and took the double-barreled shotgun in the hand of the unlucky guy. The butt of this shotgun was cut off, and the barrel was sawed a lot shorter. I think it was not legal, probably used by the Harlan City gang. Then, Luo Guang got up and ran, hiding in the alley on the other side, and all the bullets hit the wall. The enemy chased him relentlessly, and was sent to reincarnation by Luo Guang's two spray guns. This is why Luo Guang thought those people were just security teams, not the army. Seeing that the enemy had a gun in his hand, he foolishly chased him directly with his large number of people. Luo Guang did not retreat but advanced, threw away the shotgun with no bullets, and then snatched the Uzi submachine gun that was killed by the shotgun. When he fired just now, he deliberately raised the aiming point, so the shotgun pellets did not hit the submachine gun with a skinware degree of long-term battlefield. Da-da-da, da-da-da. Luo Guang did not shoot recklessly after getting the fully automatic weapon. Because there was no spare magazine, he had to use it sparingly. The enemy who originally rushed into the alley was pressed out by Luo Guang. But he did not rush out of the alley, but directly crashed into the house next to it to avoid the zombies that followed the sound of the gunshot. There was no door here, he directly knocked down the wall. There were no enemies or zombies in the house. Luo Guang pulled out the magazine of the submachine gun, checked the number of bullets, and then inserted it back. The weapons in the hands of the security team were all submachine guns or shotguns, so he had to focus on the enemies with shotguns next. Ugh! The zombies appeared from the hole in the wall and rushed over immediately when they saw Luo Guang. Luo Guang slapped the enemy, knocked off his head, and then turned and left. The Virgin Mary, wearing a purple-red holy robe and a golden sun god mask, was meditating in the temple, hoping to get enlightenment from the sun god. She felt a hint of threat when she talked to Luo Guang in the body of a priest, but it did not mean that the other party was hostile to her, but simply felt that the other party was dangerous. In other words, there was a possibility of communication between the two parties, so when she learned that a person who was killing zombies crazily appeared outside, the Virgin Mary knew that person was coming. In line with the principle that one more friend is better than one more enemy, Our Lady arranged for her most trusted senior bishop to greet the other party and express her enthusiasm and sincerity. But she didn't know how humble the senior bishop was in front of her, but how arrogant and domineering he was in front of others. This chapter is not finished yet, please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. Emptying her mind, The enlightened virgin opened her eyes and exhaled deeply. Our Lady's personal servant said anxiously. She had been standing here for almost half an hour waiting for Our Lady to complete the initiation ceremony. The inspiration that Our Lady received was not good. In the illusion, she saw a large number of corpses appearing around the temple. Her most loyal guards were all wiped out, and the senior bishop she valued fell in a pool of blood. She refused to close her eyes and felt that the void sect might encounter a catastrophe. Now seeing his servant so anxious, his bad premonition became more obvious, so he asked, "What's the matter?" The maid heard the virgin's inquiry and said quickly, "The senior bishop asked someone to sound the alarm. According to the latest intelligence, most of our troops have been killed and wounded, and the remaining people no longer dare to pursue the enemy." "Where did the enemy come from? What did the bishop do?" Our Lady frowned. She always felt that some things were out of her control. The maid has been following the Holy Mother and does not know the specific situation. She can only convey the senior bishop's message truthfully. The senior bishop said that the person you asked him to greet Our Lady was disrespectful to him and ignored his words. This was a great disrespect to the void cult, so he ordered his followers to tie the other party to the statue to make him feel ashamed. The other party resisted stubbornly and injured his followers, so in order to destroy the enemies who were disrespectful to the void cult, he dispatched his troops. Hearing this, the Holy Mother felt that something was wrong and questioned. "I told him before that the other party is not a member of the void sect and is not liked by zombies, so I asked him to protect him and not to cause trouble. Is this true?" She couldn't believe that the senior bishop she trusted was going against her will. Moreover, when others ignored him, he turned into ignoring the void cult. This kind of behavior was not like what a high-ranking bishop would do. The maid knew that Our Lady trusted the senior bishop, so she knelt down directly, put her head on the floor, and said, "The person sent by the senior bishop did indeed say so. The guard at the door can testify." The Holy Mother nodded, but did not express whether she believed it or not. Instead, she asked the maid to find the captain of the guard. Then she briefly explained the situation to the head guard who entered the door, and then ordered, "Go and investigate the situation." Copy that. The guard captain took the order and left. The Blessed Virgin continued to the maid, "I want to go out." Someone secretly approached the senior bishop and told him that Our Lady was coming. The senior bishop rolled his eyes, put a wad of money into the other person's hand, then straightened his appearance, turned around and walked towards the temple. Those combatants have now lost their will to fight and rely on the zombies to drag each other down. If they stay here any longer, they will only be in greater danger. It is better to take this opportunity to leave and regroup the team. The Holy Mother is here, and her fanatical guards must also be there, and they are much stronger than the rabble under her. Although it was an army established in the name of the void cult, because the Holy Mother commissioned him to do it, he established the army as his own, and the people inside were more loyal to his money. Although Luo Guang killed most of his men, he didn't care, and was secretly happy that he could avoid giving out bonuses to a group of people. But Luo Guang would not let the other party leave easily. He suddenly rushed out from the house on the side, holding a revolver in his right hand at his waist, and placed his left hand above the hammer of the revolver. Each time the hammer is pressed, the trigger is immediately pulled. A semi-automatic revolver was quickly emptied by Luo Guang, and 6 bullets eliminated the guards around the senior bishop. When the remaining people saw the sudden appearance of Luo Guang, they abandoned their helmets and fled in all directions, just like ordinary civilians. The senior bishop was also flustered now. So many people and zombies failed to stop him. Now that I'm the only one left, I can't just let the other person need me at will. You are so cool, why don't you continue? The other party was older than Luo Guang, but Luo Guang spoke without any politeness and moved closer to the other party as he spoke. Don't come here. Otherwise our void cult won't let you go. Luo Guang could see at a glance the other party's power, and he was not afraid of the void cult. Continue your performance. You go to hell. The senior bishop took advantage of the conversation and shouted, taking out a golden M1911 pistol from his arms. It's too slow. Stop. Luo Guang quickly threw the goodness gun in his hand, and the virgin who appeared on the other side saw the senior bishop drawing the gun and shouted to stop it. The revolver hit the senior bishop's hand, and Luo Guang, who rushed over at the same time, kicked up the pistol that fell to the ground. In less than 2 seconds, the golden M1911 pistol changed hands and came into Luo Guang's hands, aiming at the senior bishop's head. With the gun pointed at him, cold sweat broke out on the senior bishop's forehead, and he could only hope that the virgin could save him. He still thought that Luo Guang didn't fire because of the virgin's voice. Put down the weapons in your hands. The fanatical guards also acted quickly, one person guarding the virgin, ready to sacrifice himself at any time. The others quickly dispersed to surround Luo Guang, confirming that he could not threaten the Holy Mother, and also to separate the zombies. Is this the way your void sect treats guests? As soon as Luo Guang finished speaking, the senior bishop saw Luo Guang being surrounded and became bolder. He put down his hands that he had raised unconsciously and complained, "Holy Mother, look at this person, he is so audacious, he actually dares to slander us void section." Idiot. After Luo Guang confirmed that the weapons on those fanatical guards could not pose a threat to him, he launched a personal attack with a nonchalant expression. This chapter is not finished yet. Please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. You still dare to curse? I will wait for you to fall into my hands. You will definitely look good. The senior bishop looked at Luo Guang's position where he kept looking at the virgin, and his feet began to make small movements. Bang! Without looking back, Luo Guang shot the senior bishop in the thigh. Did I let you go? After that, he continued to say to the Holy Mother, "You actually sent this kind of person here because you want to give me power." The Holy Mother screamed in her heart that she was wronged. She really didn't have this idea, but the behavior of the senior bishop had become a fact, and any reason she gave was nothing more than sophistry. The whole matter has been investigated and it was an unkind act on her part. But she cannot compromise her authority by giving in front of others, even if it is her own fault. You can't tell who is right or wrong in this matter, right? Why don't we change places? If it is indeed the bishop's problem, I can give you an answer. Did you make a mistake? You want to be a judge after being a defendant. Under the current circumstances, Luo Guang naturally couldn't do what the other party wanted. The Holy Mother was unhappy in her heart. She had already spoken in a nice voice, and it would have been nice if the other party had given her a step up, but now that the other party was talking like this, how could she maintain her majesty if she was timid now? It seems that the negotiation is not settled. The Virgin Mother standing behind the fanatical guards sounded displeased, and the guards also clenched their weapons, waiting for the Virgin Mary's order. Even if the senior bishop wanted to continue to support the fire, he was unable to do so, and the wound on his thigh was bleeding profusely. He didn't know how to stop the bleeding, and his face was pale from the pain. He could only yell to save him, but everyone ignored him. "Haha, I'm sorry. I don't really want to talk today." He understood that peace is the most important thing, but if it had been anyone else, he would have been killed by the attack from both zombies and humans. A gunshot rang out, and the shouting senior bishop finally fell silent. The Void Sect has its own way of ignoring zombies, so it can be said that they are easy to deal with. However, they did not do this. Instead, they coexisted with those zombies and treated them as human beings. What does this make those anti-biochemical soldiers fighting on the front lines think? The Virgin's attitude after her appearance only added fuel to the fire, so Luo Guang did not hesitate and shot the shouting bishop to death. "You actually..." The Holy Mother was halfway through her words, but she was stuck in her throat and did not say it out. Because she remembered the scene of the Enlightenment just now, the way the senior bishop looked at her with eyes closed was exactly the same as in the Enlightenment. Evolution begins with Resident Evil. Author, Wei Tong Miao. Chapter 322. Seeing the Virgin suddenly stall like a car, Luo Guang did not relax his vigilance. "Come with me, I have something to talk to you about, to resolve the misunderstanding between us." After saying that, the Virgin took the initiative to show weakness, not afraid that the guards standing sideways would not be able to block the bullets in time. She turned around and showed her back to Luo Guang. "The beauty trap is useless to me." Luo Guang's words made the Virgin stagger directly. Fortunately the personal servant quickly supported her, otherwise she would lose face. Although the Virgin's voice and smile could not be seen, her curvy figure was fully displayed under the background of the close-fitting holy robe. The Virgin did not reply to Luo Guang's words, just pretending not to hear, and walked straight to the temple, regardless of whether the other party followed. Seeing this, Luo Guang also knew that the other party had given in, so he temporarily stopped and planned to go and see the situation first. Everyone came to the temple, a ritual room of the Void sect. There was no nonsense like 3 kneelings and 9 bows. The Virgin directly dismissed everyone, and only Luo Guang and herself were left in the room. "Aren't you afraid that I will take you down right now?" After everyone left, Luo Guang snorted coldly. "I believe in the content of the Enlightenment. My death is not yet here, but now we are alone in a room, it is normal for you to want to take me down." This was the counterattack of the Holy Mother against Luo Guang's previous behavior that almost made her look ridiculous. By the way, she is not the kind of weak woman who has no fighting power. Even if Luo Guang suddenly attacks, she has the confidence to hold on until the guards come. "Is the Enlightenment you mentioned a trick of pretending to be a ghost?" Luo Guang did not believe what the other party said. To a certain extent, the other party's ability can be regarded as predicting the future, which is unscientific. The Holy Mother has heard such words many times, so her emotions did not stir up the slightest ripples, and replied, "It's up to you to believe it or not. I can't prove it to you in a short time. The only thing I can say is that if there was no reminder from the Enlightenment, I would not let you go easily just now, and you will bring us huge casualties." Although she did not see the result in the Enlightenment, no matter what the final result is, the Void sect will definitely be the loser. Unless the enemy, who was fighting 1 against 100, joined her side and was used by her. So she finally held back and did not make a big mistake. At the same time, a new plan became clearer and clearer in her mind. "Your Enlightenment is very wrong. I am just one person. How could I cause you so many casualties?" He. The Virgin Mary believed more in the Enlightenment she had received, and the troops formed by the senior bishop were almost wiped out. But the opponent still looked intact and did not sweat a drop. So she did not dare to bet her fanatical guards on whether the opponent could beat them. These fanatical guards are the backbone of the Void Church and are absolutely loyal to her. For her goal, these people cannot make any mistakes. Back to the point, I think there are many misunderstandings between you and our Void Church. In fact, our church has no intention of becoming an enemy of you. That was all the bishop's own decision. For safety reasons, the Virgin Mary stopped talking to the other party about superpowers and told Luo Guang what she had told him. "I see." Luo Guang nodded. "Then how do you plan to compensate me for my losses?" The other party's situation is indeed possible, which also gave Luo Guang a little reminder. "I should be more careful about those companies responsible for making money, so as not to be usurped by others or ruined by the wrong people." "Compensation? You don't seem to have any losses, right? But to show our sincerity, how about 200,000 liras, in order to prevent the other party from asking for too much?" The Virgin Mary first proposed the compensation amount. 200,000 liras. Converted to less than $8,000, are you sending away beggars? Luo Guang was amused. "Forget it, I don't expect you to pay me. Answer me a few questions. What exactly is that blue smoke? Why don't zombies attack you? The Virgin Mary did not answer Luo Guang's question, because ordinary people would not care about these things. Instead, she asked, before you say this, how much do you know about this disaster? Who are you? I don't know much about this place. After all, I came here to travel because of the sports meeting. Thinking that the sports meeting will not open for a while, I came here to play, and ended up being trapped here. Luo Guang did not say that he came from the civilian area. In that case, why are you so concerned about the blue smoke? Only anti-biochemical organizations like the FBC or pharmaceutical companies like TriLink would pay attention to this, right? It's profitable, so your compensation is more like a provocation to a businessman. When Luo Guang heard the other party mention organizations like the FBC, his face showed a little disdain. A businessman? But with your fighting power, you can leave before the blockade, right? Indeed, in this biochemical crisis, no matter how expensive the blue smoke is, there are still many people who buy it, so the Virgin Mary only expressed her doubts about the previous long paragraph. Which idiot said that this disaster is caused by rabies? Luo Guang's words explained from the side why he didn't leave, because he misjudged the situation. He didn't see any cats or dogs along the way. Because of rabies, the stray animals in Harlan suffered a lot. Although the doctor made a wrong judgment, he had been trying to rescue the infected before he turned into a zombie, and it was a pity in the end. To some extent, this is indeed rabies, but the rabies virus has mutated. Do you know about this virus? The truth about the Harlan virus has not been made public, and Luo Guang pretended not to know. This chapter is not over yet. Please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content below. At the same time, he began to suspect whether the other party had another identity. The Virgin nodded slightly and said, "This blue smoke is related to the virus, so the zombies will not attack people who inhale the blue smoke, but treat them as their own kind. In fact, it is infected with the Harlan virus, but the dosage is small, so the body has not mutated for the time being." Luo Guang's uncertain look deceived the Virgin. "We don't know either, but this is the best way to save the survivors in the old city." The Virgin lied. She was very clear about the impact of excessive inhalation of blue mist. "What do you mean?" Luo Guang did not immediately express his attitude and thoughts. "We were abandoned by Harlan City." The Virgin lowered her head slightly, with a look of compassion, and continued, "To survive, we have no choice." "Do you have the technology to make blue mist?" Luo Guang asked, ignoring the other party's words that occupied the moral high ground. "Under the inspiration of the sun god, we once used a trap to solve a night demon that came out to hunt at night." This is not the Virgin Mary bragging to scare Luo Guang. She continued, "Then when we burned the body of the night demon, we found that the smoke from the burning was blue. After that, I got enlightenment again, and then I discovered the use of this blue mist and how to make it. This enlightenment is like a universal answer." The Virgin Mary used this to cover up some difficult to explain places. Luo Guang did not believe the other party's words. It was too ridiculous. "The stuff in the incense burner is some blue powder, not solidified corpse oil. If blue smoke can really be produced by burning corpses, there is no need to make it into powder, which will increase production costs. Moreover, the Harlan virus is just a variant of rabies after all. It is not as resistant to high temperatures as the beast virus. Burning the corpse of the night demon can naturally sterilize and eliminate viruses, and it is impossible to produce smoke containing the Harlan virus." The Virgin Mary was actually sure that ordinary people could not solve the night demon, and there was no way to verify the accuracy of her words, so she made up such a statement. Luo Guang did not ask about the production process, nor did he mention that he could defeat the night demon. Instead, he asked another question. "The biochemical crisis in Harlan City will be solved sooner or later. What will you do then?" The blue smoke can't return to normal society after people are infected with the Harlan virus. The other party did not deny that there was a Harlan virus in the blue mist, so Luo Guang tried again. As long as we can survive, there will naturally be a way. For example, before the survivors become zombies, the antidote for the Harlan virus has been developed. The Virgin Mary showed no sign of denial. Once ordinary rabies breaks out, there is basically no cure. Why do you think there is a cure for mutated rabies? Luo Guang then said, unless you, the Void Sect, have already mastered the antidote for the Harlan virus, so you are fearless inhaling the blue smoke. Otherwise, would you, who is in a high position and has become the local tyrant of the old city, let yourself be infected with the Harlan virus and bury a time bomb? The Virgin Mary answered without hesitation, there is no antidote. And I have said before that I am trying to survive. Without life, no matter how great the power is, it will be fleeting. This excuse is clumsy. It's not like you, the Void Sect, inhaled the blue mist just to survive. The Virgin Mary squinted her eyes, recalling what she had said, and didn't know where she was exposed. If you really want to survive, why don't you get rid of those zombies? Luo Guang pointed his index finger at the other party, posing the signature action of Chen Tangbu lawyer, full of momentum, and asked loudly. The Virgin Mary was silent for a while, sighed, and seemed to have made up her mind. She said, where do you think the source of this disaster is? What does this have to do with what we just talked about? Someone built a huge research institute under Harlan City, just like Umbrella Corporation in Raccoon City. The Virgin Mary continued her words forcefully. When Luo Guang heard the other party mention Raccoon City, his face did not change much, waiting for the Virgin Mary's next words. And the source of this biochemical crisis is the people in that research institute. They developed the Harlan virus at the beginning and then put it on the ground for human testing. The Virgin Mary's words were decisive, and the tone was very different from the previous one, as if she was venting a secret that had been suppressed in her heart for a long time. Those idiots of the FBC didn't even continue to look for the source. They even issued a notice that disgusted all the victims. Luo Guang felt anger from the other party. The Virgin Mary clenched her fists, her eyes were red behind the sun god mask, and her pupils were full of anger. How do you know about the research institute? How do I know if what you said is true or false? Why did the other party tell me these secrets? Is it because of my fighting ability that the other party wants to recruit me to deal with the research institute? Or is it that the other party has other means, and I am a dying man, so I am not afraid of leaking it? Luo Guang thought to himself and continued, and aren't you afraid that I am from the research institute? You don't look like it. The Virgin Mary seemed to be familiar with those people and said, back to the previous question, why did I leave those zombies behind? Of course, it was to defend against the enemies sent by the institute, or to survive. As for the reason why the institute sent people, it's very simple. I am one of the experimental subjects of this institute. You escaped, why didn't you report it to the FBC? Even if the institute is underground in Harlan City, the FBC will dig it out even if it digs 3 feet deep. This chapter is not finished yet, please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content later. Luo Guang added in his mind, FBC must like those research materials. I didn't escape, I was discarded like garbage by the people in the research institute and thrown into the garbage dump of Harlan City. But I didn't die and become a member of the serial murder case in Harlan City. Instead, I awakened my talent and became the Holy Mother of the Void Church. The Holy Mother, who originally thought she had escaped from the nightmare, smiled bitterly. What I didn't expect was that this Holy Mother was also the target of the research institute. The reason why I was caught for experiments was actually because I am of the Sun tribe descent and have the potential for that mysterious power. As for what you said about talking to FBC for these things, first of all, I don't know the specific location of those research institutes, let alone how deep they are. If I can't find them even if I dig 3 feet deep, I will be very passive. The Holy Mother also thought about using the FBC for revenge, but finally decided to rely on herself and the power of the Void Church, and the only way for me to prove the existence of the Research Institute is to expose my own identity. All crows are black. Who knows if I will be captured by the FBC and taken to their research institute to continue to be a test subject that can be manipulated at will. Although he used a question, Luo Guang understood that the other party did not trust the FBC and other anti-biochemical organizations at all. So he did not mention the names of organizations such as BSAA. The other party was not talking about future plans, but the path she was taking. Luo Guang asked, "But you told me the secret, why? Do you think I can help you get revenge?" "I told you this not because of the hint given to me by enlightenment, but because of my personal feeling." The explosion suddenly sounded in the room, and blue smoke instantly filled the entire ritual room. This ritual room was originally used for those who defected to the Void Church to change their credit. Similar to baptism, joining the Void Church requires inhaling the blue smoke. And the Void Church believers must complete a promotion ceremony to take higher positions, which is also simple to inhale more blue mist to confirm their faith in the Sun God. This blue mist can make people immune to attacks by Harlan virus-infected people, but this is not its main function, but a side effect of the blue mist. The Virgin Mary discovered the innate ability in her bloodline, and the enlightenment ability is just the tip of the iceberg of talent. She found that people who inhaled the blue mist would have a conscious connection with her, and then she could directly speak to those people unilaterally and give orders through consciousness. The group of new believers that Luo Guang and Kellen met dreamed of the Harlan Temple when they inhaled the blue mist for the first time for this reason. For people in the position of priests, if the Virgin Mary concentrates all her energy, she can control the priests to observe and act, so Luo Guang's preventive measures to directly solve the priests are the right choice. If it is a senior bishop who inhales a lot of blue smoke, the Virgin Mary can control dozens of them at a time. The more blue mist is inhaled, the easier it is for the Virgin Mary to control. So the Holy Mother told Luo Guang so many things, not worrying that Luo Guang would leak them out. She just regarded it as fulfilling the other party's last wish and delaying time for her recruitment plan. In addition to the fanatical guards, she also hid a troop in the temple. The name of the troop is Night Demon, and it just needs a stormtrooper captain. Evolution begins with Resident Evil. Author, Wei Tongmiao. Chapter 323. This time, Luo Guang's danger perception ability was not triggered. Because his resistance to various viruses can be said to be infinitely close to complete immunity, but he still pretended to be infected and fell to the ground. As for whether this was a normal reaction after inhaling blue mist, Luo Guang didn't know, and he tried to see if he could deceive the other party. Harlan virus has been detected entering the body, and it is being analyzed. The voice of the system also appeared in Luo Guang's mind at the first time. According to the purpose of the adapter, it is confirming the mutation of Harlan virus. In short, the system is confirming whether the virus entering Luo Guang's body has fused with other people's genetic data to cause adverse mutations. Insufficient data cannot be confirmed, and the rabies virus in the database is being reversed to analyze the Harlan virus. The system is busy, and Luo Guang did not lose consciousness because of this, and lay obediently in the blue mist. Hearing the sound, the Virgin Mary stood up and slowly approached her. Obviously, Luo Guang's reaction after inhaling the blue mist was fine, which was consistent with the situation of others. At the same time, the other party's voice suddenly sounded in Luo Guang's mind, mixed with the system's voice. It was the Virgin Mary who activated her ability to confirm whether Luo Guang really inhaled the blue mist, rather than holding his breath and pretending to be dead. Although we have talked a lot just now, both you and I have reservations without the obstruction of the mask. The Virgin Mary's voice lost its dullness and became very pleasant. It was the voice of a young woman, with a sense of girlishness. But from the Virgin Mary's figure, She was not a girl at all, but had the charm of a mature woman. The Virgin Mary walked forward step by step, and the voice in her mind became more and more charming. Join us, let's be honest with each other. Luo Guang did not take the opportunity to sneak attack the other party when the other party approached, but dragged time first. Reverse analysis is completed, analyzing the virus, and then comparing. Analysis is completed. It is estimated that the similarity with the original sample of the Harlan virus is 87.63%, and the error is estimated to be plus or minus 3.22%. The similarity problem is not big, and this Harlan virus seems to be related to the Virgin Mary's ability to control consciousness. Fusion and absorption of this virus can probably gain that ability and strengthen the control ability of the T. Veronica virus. If the adapter wants to merge the original version, or plans to compare it later, he can choose not to merge it first. Does that mean that the two viruses can coexist harmoniously in the body for the time being? Luo Guang confirmed. Yes, but because there is no fusion, it will not be able to fully exert the potential of the Harlan virus, nor can it improve physical attributes. Then use whatever you have. Analyze the specific abilities first, and I will decide whether to merge later. Received. The system begins the further analysis program, confirming the useless parts of the Harlan virus, preparing to remove the gene fragments that are afraid of water and ultraviolet rays, improving and optimizing, 36.32%, optimization issues. Analyzing the concrete ability, 60.96%, complete. Number of skills that can be extracted, 3. 1. Consciousness control. The adapter can read the consciousness of the infected person who is infected with the Harlan virus and still retains intelligence. However, if you want to control the actions of the infected person, the concentration of Harlan virus in the target body must reach more than 30%. If you choose to merge, the consciousness control ability will evolve directly. Note, the system cannot predict the specific changes. This ability is what Luo Guang values the most. The leader of the Church of Light had a similar ability before, but he didn't like parasites, so he didn't fuse. Now he has a chance to make up for his regret. Originally, he was still thinking about whether he could absorb the other party's physical ability if it was inherited from his bloodline. As a result, the system now analyzes such an ability for him. This indirectly shows that the saint may be infected with the Harlan virus, or that the people of the Sons of the Sun tribe have some gene fragments of the Harlan virus in their bodies. This Harlan virus is the result of someone using this gene fragment to transform the rabies virus. 2. Night Demon ability. The physical fitness of the adapter is based on the original basis, and the strength and flexibility are improved by add 2. A cyst will appear in the throat, which stores highly corrosive acid, which can be spit out through the mouth. At the same time, the skin will fall off, the ribs will be turned outward, and the appearance is basically the same as the night demon. Note, after the night demon is removed, it can be restored to normal form. If you choose to fuse, the physical value will be doubled, and the appearance will not have the same characteristics as the night demon. Other special abilities cannot be confirmed. The night demon is too ugly. If Luo Guang did not choose to fuse the Harlan virus, he would definitely not choose this ability. Moreover, the strength and flexibility attributes add to the electric energy to stimulate the potential of cells can also achieve the same effect. Besides, he has already gained an explosive ability when fusing the Sleeping God virus. For this kind of explosive ability, one more or one less is not a big problem. He is more concerned about the improvement of hard power under normal conditions. 3. Adaptive strengthening ability. The Harlan virus will perform specific strengthening according to the physical condition of the adapter, but this ability cannot be selected in the case of coexistence. The third ability is a standard ability, which is relatively common. Various biochemical viruses have such an ability to strengthen the body. The overall ability provided by the Harlan virus is actually quite a lot, but many of them overlap with the viruses that Luo Guang had fused before and cannot strengthen the original ability, or Luo Guang had appeared before but chose not to absorb the technology, so the system directly filtered out those abilities. Luo Guang knew this, and every time he selected a skill, he would open the filter list to confirm the specific skill. This chapter is not over yet, please click the next page to continue reading. For example, among the skills filtered out this time, there is the ability to turn both hands into claws, which is also in the Sleeping God virus, but he did not choose it. I still choose to merge directly, and all the skills are required. Luo Guang finally made a choice. After confirming again that the adapter wants to merge the Harlan virus, the system started working. Start integration, readjust the dominant virus structure in the body. At this time, the Virgin Mary walked to Luo Guang, who was lying on the ground, knelt down, stretched out her gloved hand to stroke Luo Guang's face, and whispered, "With this person, it will be much easier to deal with the people in the institute. Now the only piece of the puzzle left is to find the entrance to the institute." Although the blue mist in the air filled the entire room, it was too low in concentration. Restricting the opponent's actions was the Virgin Mary's main goal. "Sorry, I dragged you into my revenge." The Virgin Mary took out a syringe from her body and injected Luo Guang with the liquid in the syringe. This behavior is essentially no different from those researchers who inject various drugs into their bodies, so she apologized to Luo Guang. The syringe contains the concentrated virus liquid of Harlan virus, and the blue mist is made from this virus liquid. These virus liquids are made by the people of the Void Church through refining and other methods, but the night demon is not easy to catch, and the virus liquid they have is now used up. As for the refining and manufacturing methods, they got it when the Virgin Mary was enlightened. To increase the content of Harlan virus in the believers' bodies, it is also possible to use the meat of the infected directly, but the believers are not stupid enough to eat the meat that emits a foul smell, so the Virgin Mary only provides more blue mist to those who are useful to her or trustworthy people, and strengthens her control over these subordinates. Although the senior bishop is two-faced, his work ability is indeed excellent, and he manages the entire Void Church territory in an orderly manner. But to take revenge on the Institute, management talents are not necessary, so for the Virgin Mary, Luo Guang's value is more important than that of the senior bishop, so she used blue mist to ambush Luo Guang for her own revenge, not revenge for the senior bishop. All the members of her army called night demons can be controlled by her, and all are night demons mass-produced with virus fluid. Here we have to mention how the night demons are produced. According to the research of the mysterious organization, mutation into night demons is limited to humans, and other animals cannot be transformed into creatures like night demons. This is the first condition. The humans in the night demon army are all powerful warriors carefully selected by the Virgin Mary from her fanatical guards. The second condition is that they need to absorb excessive amounts of Harlan virus to be born, such as ordinary people through multiple bites of infected people and other methods to meet this condition. Not only ordinary people, but even infected people can be transformed into night demons after absorbing a large amount of Harlan virus. Although infected people will not attack each other, there are eyewitness reports of infected people eating the corpses of their own kind. Therefore, the new city district has the largest number of night demons in Harlan City today. Luo Guang saw a half-formed night demon soaking in a pool of blood in the sewer, with something like an umbilical cord connecting it. In fact, the half-formed night demon was constantly absorbing the Harlan virus and transforming into a night demon. Night demons are intelligent. In order to increase their kind, they often capture humans or select plague demons in good physical condition to return to their nests to create new night demons. Now the Virgin Mary directly injected a bottle of Harlan virus concentrate into Luo Guang's body in order to gain his absolute loyalty. Luo Guang's system was about to fuse the Harlan virus, and when he felt the Virgin Mary's action, he temporarily stopped the fusion program and released the skin's defense so that the needle could easily penetrate. He thought this was some special Harlan virus, but the system told him that it was basically the same as the Harlan virus in the blue mist, making him happy for nothing. Then the fusion program continued, and the system's voice sounded, "Restart the fusion program, start fusion." 23.76%. 62.21%, fusion completed. This time the fusion speed was much slower than before, because there were many Harlan viruses injected into the body, and the dominant virus in Luo Guang's body had to tame those Harlan viruses first. Luo Guang checked his personal attributes and found many changes, only the changed items are listed below. Adaptability level, S, virus specialization. Strength, 19 rightward arrow 21, through burst, current stimulation and other abilities, the total burst can reach up to 26. Agility, 23, through burst, current stimulation and other abilities, the total burst can reach up to 27. Endurance, 23 rightward arrow 25. Mental strength, 14. Fusion virus skills. 1 rapid self-healing ability from the T-virus, breaking through the limits of human ability. 2 physical enhancement from the blood plague virus, speed and strength, emitting and listening to specific sound waves and pheromone production. 3 physical enhancement from the T Veronica virus, reaction, recovery, defense, resistance to low and high temperatures, control of T Veronica virus infected objects, T Veronica virus ecological transformation ability, similar tissue assimilation ability and hardened armor. 4 physical enhancement from the sleeping tyrant virus, cell optimization, gelatin armor, fusion with hardened armor, and burst ability. 5 danger perception, bone and cell enhancement, and eternal toxins from the eternal virus. 6 the ability to generate bioelectricity, control current and excite current from the Thor virus, T/G fusion virus. 7 the spiritual thoughts and night demonization ability from the Harlan virus. This chapter is not over, please click on the next page to continue reading. First of all, the adaptability finally became S-level, but a virus specialization was marked later. Luo Guang asked the system, "Does this mean that I can only fuse viruses in the future?" The system answered flatly, "No, but fused viruses can have higher adaptability." An S-level means that adapters can tap greater potential from each fused virus. It adds, this adaptability level has been put into effect, so the adapter's endurance attribute has been improved. Isn't the improvement in endurance attributes directly improved by the Harlan virus? It's the function of adaptive reinforcement capabilities. Luo Guang nodded in his mind. The larger the value, the harder it is to improve. Therefore, it is good to increase the adaptability level by a small level but gain 2 points of endurance. Facing modern weapons, he felt that no matter how high the attributes were, they were not enough. Then he asked the next question, is that mental power a fusion of intelligence attributes and willpower attributes? Yes. Mental attributes are now the integration of intelligence attributes and willpower. Luo Guang felt that he had always been on the scientific side of materialism, so why did he suddenly turn to idealism and pursue spiritual ascension? This time in the Harlan City operation, he also used Amuro's name, and now it seems that he has truly become a new human being. Luo Guang was happy to get a new ability, and this ability has great prospects. The only pity is that the system does not have any methods for using this aspect, so you can only explore it yourself. Wait a minute, is the Holy Mother's ability a way to use spiritual thoughts? Luo Guang suddenly thought of this. The adapter's guess accuracy is 95.63%, the system replied. That is to say, I need to resist the opponent's mind control. Now Luo Guang has just obtained this ability, but Our Lady is obviously able to use this ability skillfully, which makes him feel a sense of crisis. Just like those in RPGs, warriors with high physical defense tend to be weak in magic damage. Luo Guang asked about his opponent's situation, and then he had to prepare in advance, and the system's answer was, if the opponent is a human, his mental power will not be able to surpass the host. After hearing this, he understood that human mental power also has limits. But people in this world, especially those who seem to be bosses, often misbehaved at every turn, so he did not let down his guard. The Holy Mother looked at Luo Guang in a coma, and instead of rushing to control him, she waited for him to be completely infected with the Harlan virus. Generally speaking, in about 1 to 2 hours, the other person can completely transform into a night demon. Only then can you truly control the other person. This ritual room is very strong. Even if the other person turns into a night demon, he will not be able to take it out for a while. It is enough for her to come back and do this after she is busy with other things, just like she did before. So the Virgin put away the syringe with this thought in mind. This thing could not be seen by others, and then left the ceremony room. Luo Guang was still pretending to be asleep and did not attack the other party immediately. After the other party left and closed the door, he opened his eyes and began to practice his newly acquired skills. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Evolution begins with Resident Evil. Author, Wei Tongmiao. Chapter 324. Speaking of spiritual thoughts, Luo Guang can think of many things, from the popular bending spoon test on TV when he was a child to the current telekinesis and so on. But he is not very clear about what this spiritual power is. However, he once heard a sentence in college: spiritual power is a concrete manifestation of human subjective initiative. According to that sentence, it may be described by the literal meaning of the idiom "what you wish for will come true." Of course, this does not mean that spiritual thoughts can do everything, but refers to a method of application. The bending spoon test makes the invisible spiritual power visible, so this test should allow Luo Guang to intuitively understand the strength of his new ability. At this time, he has no spoon, but he can still make a small stick the size of a toothpick with hardened armor. At worst, he still has a few gravel in his pocket. If his spiritual power becomes very strong, can he directly block bullets like the male protagonist in The Matrix? However, with his current endurance, his face can only block a 0.22 LR pistol bullet, so it is a long way to go for him to reach the state of being able to block bullets with his mind. So Luo Guang just fantasized about it, and then began to try to use his mental power. He stared at the middle part of the stick that was not pinched, and then concentrated his attention in his mind to think about breaking it. Well, failed. Luo Guang tried several more times, but all failed. The stick did not react. This is not a hardened armor stick that is too hard to break, because the hand holding the stick did not feel any force exerted on it by mental power. Then he changed the method and kept thinking about how to use this ability, but all the attempts failed. The system did not answer all the questions that Luo Guang had in this process. As it said before, there is no data on the use of mental power in the database, and it seems that he has to slowly explore it himself. He couldn't solve this problem in a short time, so he thought about whether he could learn from the Virgin Mary, and the simplest way was to fight. Just as he stood up and prepared to act, his mind suddenly flashed, and he suddenly thought of something. That is, when he used the sensing ability of the T Veronica virus, was the energy used to control the target also mental power? After all, from the effect point of view, there is not much difference between the Virgin Mary's telepathy and the hints he gave to the T Veronica virus infected person. Since he thought of it, Luo Guang decisively put it into practice, using the two abilities successively, and carefully experienced the difference between them. In order to avoid being discovered by the people of the Void Church, he only relied on instinct to launch at the air in front of him, and the two gave him a very similar feeling. Then he asked the system to confirm the gene fragments related to the mind dialogue in the T Veronica virus and Harlan virus in his body, and let the system try to crack the mind. There are 91.63% similarities. The system quickly completed the comparison and replied. In this way, the communication methods of the two and the same virus-infected people are actually similar or even the same method. So in the mind of the priest captured by Luo Guang, he can fight against the Virgin Mary and compete for the control of the priest. But in addition to the mental power of both parties, there is another thing that needs to be fought, that is, the virus in the body of the controlled person. The T. Veronica virus is like a carrier of Luo Guang's mental power or a receiver, and the Harlan virus should be the same principle. So even if the Virgin Mary's mental power was higher than his own at that time, the Harlan virus in the priest's body could not beat the T. Veronica virus, so he would naturally have the upper hand. From this incident alone, we can draw a conclusion that mental power cannot affect the real world without a virus carrier. Thinking of this, Luo Guang sighed in his heart and was happy for nothing. But he was not discouraged, because from the thinking just now, he realized a mistake he had made over the years. Because it is the control ability of the T. Veronica virus, he can only use this ability to control the T. Veronica virus infected objects. He has never carefully studied the specific operating principle of this ability and tried to expand the control range of this ability. Because after the virus ability is integrated into the body, it can be used at will like instinct, and at most it is a matter of practice makes perfect to improve proficiency, so he did not delve into it. Not only this ability, but other abilities are also true. Because Luo Guang himself lacks the ability to dig deep, otherwise even if he did not get the Harlan virus, he might have evolved the sensing ability of the T. Veronica virus into the ability of mental will. So he reflected deeply on his mistakes. It is not too late to mend the fence after the sheep have been lost. He no longer thought about the fact that mental power could not affect reality, but sat cross-legged and called the system to assist him in his mind. The purpose of this time was to streamline the dominant virus in his body, integrate the virus ability, and dig deep into the principles and possibilities of the skills. With such an idea, he realized how bloated the dominant virus in his body was. Although the system will cut and eliminate the useless parts of the fused virus, and will ensure the stability of the fused virus, to ensure that the dominant virus will not collapse. But it does not fuse the same type of abilities, such as hardened armor and gelatin armor. This chapter is not finished yet, please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. Luo Guang only now discovered that the system said that the gelatin armor and hardened armor were fused, but there were still two different gene fragments separated in the dominant virus in the body. In fact, when he used the hardened armor ability, the two abilities were activated at the same time, and then the secretions were mixed together, and the system made different proportions to achieve the effect Luo Guang wanted. The T virus was the first biochemical virus Luo Guang got, and it was also the basis for him to build the dominant virus in his body. And this time he integrated the ability without changing this cornerstone. Although it seems good to use the sleeping god tyrant virus, a virus that can only evolve benignly, as the foundation. But after testing it several times, Luo Guang found that the unlimited benign evolution ability of the sleeping god tyrant virus made it very unstable as a foundation. Unless this evolutionary feature is removed, every time the sleeping god tyrant virus evolves, he and the system will have to readjust other viruses, which will add trouble, and if there is an unexpected dangerous situation, this adjustment will put Luo Guang into a power vacuum period. He is generally a relatively stable and conservative person, so naturally he would not choose the sleeping tyrant virus as his foundation. After looking around, the T virus with the best plasticity is still his best foundation now. The next step is to classify and integrate the skills of each virus. The system has saved the data of every virus sample that Luo Guang has obtained, so there is no need to find the previous virus again to give himself a shot. The first is the body enhancement type. This ability is basically the standard of each virus, and what Luo Guang has to do now is to integrate those abilities together. For safety, Luo Guang plans to use various samples for cutting, integration, and testing first, and the dominant virus in the body will not be touched for the time being, so he first lets the system screen out the virus gene fragments with the same type of ability. The system that received the adapter's instructions began to work. This time the system analyzed the gene fragments of each virus in more detail to confirm the same gene parts and unique parts. Viruses such as T. veronica virus, sleeping tyrant virus and Thor virus that evolved from T virus can be compared and confirmed very quickly. The blood plague virus, the eternal virus, and the Harlan virus are a little slower, because the scope and principle of the virus are unique. For example, the blood plague virus mainly strengthens the blood and heart, strengthens the blood and oxygen supply system, thereby improving speed and strength, while the eternal virus mainly strengthens the bone hardness and the value of cells in the body, etc. In this case, his goal is to integrate all body strengthening abilities and cover all strengthening effects to the whole body. Luo Guang constantly receives various returns from the system, constantly confirms the content of the analysis report, and at the same time thinks about the specific implementation to ensure that the work being performed by the system does not deviate from his own ideas. Screening of gene fragments with the same ability is completed, confirming the effect of the gene fragment is completed, and formulating a construction plan, modify according to the requirements of the adapter, modification is completed, the effect is improved by 2.19%. The system is not omniscient, so the plan is not perfect. I still rely too much on the ability of the system, Luo Guang thought to himself. However, Luo Guang has also been studying biological knowledge such as virology in recent years. He has a lot of knowledge so he can intervene. Otherwise, relying on the system for improvement and integration is still his best choice. Confirmation completed, blending begins, all virus body strengthening genes have been fused, stability test completed, 100% stable. Fusion test conducted, fusion successful. These viruses have been analyzed before, so the system does not need to reanalyze. As long as the plan is confirmed, the work can be completed quickly. Luo Guang also estimated the time required for streamlining the virus and integrating the skills this time. As a former office worker, his estimate of working time is still very accurate, so he did not hesitate to choose this place and time to streamline and integrate. Congratulations to the adapter for obtaining the ability to fully strengthen the body. The system snatched Luo Guang's naming rights, but Luo Guang, who is now focusing on integrating skills, did not complain about this. The main effect of this ability is still to improve Luo Guang's strength, flexibility and endurance attributes, but it also includes defense, extreme self-healing ability and resistance to low and high temperatures. Now his strength and flexibility attributes have reached 25, and his endurance attribute has directly reached 28. It can be said that he has basically squeezed out the ability of the virus to strengthen the human body. When he fought Wesker in the Caucasus secret base before, he once got the WAN virus modified by Wesker. The NA1 virus can stimulate the full potential of various viruses, but the cost is to eliminate the uniqueness of the virus, that is, to eliminate the unique skills of the virus. And through integration, Luo Guang can now fully exert the enhancement potential of all viruses. After dealing with the most self-enhancing abilities of the same type, the next are some of his commonly used abilities. The first is hardened armor and gelatin armor. This hardened armor is the ability he uses the most, so it is naturally the first to be integrated. Luo Guang asked the system to integrate these two abilities, and at his suggestion, merged the gene fragments of the Thor virus. The result of the integration is that he can secrete a biological material that is different from the above two armors. This is a soft, gelatinous black colloid. Now he can use the ability to control the current to electrify the colloid to achieve the effect of shaping and hardening. The reason for this suggestion is that he originally planned to make electromagnetic armor or PS armor, which can enhance the hardness of the armor through strong current. But in the end, considering the problem of high power consumption, he temporarily gave up this plan, but the Thor gene still slightly strengthened the armor ability. Although the armor ability is similar to the previous one, the armor is now generated faster and consumes less energy, and it has the effect of resisting electricity after shaping. Next is the ability to communicate with various zombies. Different virus-infected objects have different communication methods, pheromones, sound waves, or mind communication. Luo Guang did not rigidly integrate all of these into one ability. For example, the pheromone ability is more useful than he thought, especially in business negotiations. Sometimes it can give him an innate advantage, not to mention that the tracking pheromone gave him a lot of help. So he integrated these abilities in different categories. The integration of the two telepathic abilities of T. Veronica virus and Harlan virus, these two abilities are promising in the future. The gene fragments of the two's telepathic communication abilities are very similar. The system and Luo Guang don't know much about spiritual thoughts, so they used the simplest and most conservative method to integrate them. The mental power attribute has been increased from the original 14 to 16, which can be improved well under conservative integration, so he won't ask for too much for the time being. In addition to the above abilities, there are some other unique abilities of other viruses, such as power control and eternal toxins, which Luo Guang has not yet operated on. Finally, with the assistance of the system, the overall gene length of the dominant virus in Luo Guang's body was shortened by nearly half, and the stability is still very good, and the overall energy consumption is also reduced. After completing all the work, Luo Guang was one step faster than the system and gave the dominant virus in his body an interesting new name, Shinra virus. After replacing all the dominant viruses in his body with the new Shinra virus, Luo Guang felt that his body seemed to become lighter. It's not that his weight has dropped, but more of a sense of relief. Physical feelings are the most intuitive, which means that he is on the right path. And I don't know whether it's because of the improvement of mental power, or the combination of the two different virus mind abilities, so that the instinctive habits in the two genes no longer conflict or interfere. Luo Guang is now more adept at using mental power, but he still can't affect the real world and break the stick. He opened his eyes while sitting cross-legged, exhaled a breath of foul air, and stood up. It's time to continue this trip to Harlan and verify my achievements. Evolution begins with Resident Evil. Author, Wei Tongmiao. Chapter 325. Luo Guang looked at his watch. It had been dark for a while, which was the time when the night demon went out hunting. In order to protect the cultural relics, there were no electric lights installed in the Harlan temple. Electric wires were pulled directly from outside the temple, and then the floor lamps were used for lighting. So the Harlan temple was not completely dark. Luo Guang forcibly opened the locked door of the ritual room, making a sound of stone cracking. Ah, is this considered destroying cultural relics? Luo Guang said belatedly, talking to himself. What surprised him was that there was no one guarding the door. Now there was such a loud noise, but he waited for a while and no one from the Void Church came to check the situation. The entire Harlan temple revealed a little weirdness at this moment. When he came to the ritual room in the afternoon, he met many believers along the way. Since he didn't know where the Virgin Mary was, he would let the other party find him. Luo Guang walked along the way he came in, without encountering any people or zombies along the way, and came to the outside of the temple. He looked around. The place where the believers lived was pitch black. No one turned on the lights. This situation was even more strange. The people here live with zombies. Normally, they should not worry about being attacked by zombies. They should turn on the lights for the convenience of life. In other words, these believers have reasons for not turning on the lights, and the biggest possibility is that there is danger. And this danger is coming. Above the temple, a black shadow pounced on the person who was looking around below. Luo Guang sensed the existence of the other party when the other party had the intention to attack. Compared with the past, the feedback of the danger perception this time was a little different. The body did not have the uncomfortable feeling of tingling, but instead clearly felt the enemy's location and the enemy's outline. It was a night demon. Perhaps this was a change caused by the emergence of mental power. Luo Guang quickly turned around and took a few steps forward, holding a straight knife made of hardened armor in his hand and slashed at the other party. The night demon maintained the flying posture, hit the ground, and split into two. It feels good, Luo Guang commented to himself. The system also gave comparative data. The armored straight knife was 12.66% faster in forming, 6.11% faster in drawing, and 9.46% faster in overall action efficiency. Although the improvement was not large, if it was the old him, the enemy would probably be split in half with this knife, and then fly over from both sides of him, staining himself with blood. Of course, the new hardened armored straight knife also contributed to this, and the knife was just as sharp. Luo Guang did not look back at the split night demon corpse, but carefully examined the straight knife in his hand. The size, length, and thickness were the same as the straight knife weapon he had ordered from the metal industry company before. In the past, he did not have this kind of accuracy when he used the hardened armor ability to quickly make weapons. Luo Guang smiled, and more night demons appeared around him. There was no roar, and the night demons surrounded him tacitly. The enemy did not launch an attack, as if waiting for something, but what did this have to do with Luo Guang? With his feet exerting force, Luo Guang rushed straight to the position of the night demon in front. The night demon had just raised his right arm to prepare for the attack, but Luo Guang had already appeared behind it and turned to rush towards another night demon. The night demon with his right arm raised wanted to turn around and look behind him, but his waist did not react at all. Blood oozed from his waist, faster and faster. Then he bent his body and fell to the ground, seeing two legs standing next to him, with nothing on his waist. The night demon was very tenacious, and even if he lost his legs, he still supported his body with his arms. His internal organs fell to the ground from his body, and he turned his head to try to confirm the enemy's position, but he only saw the opponent's after image, and his companions were struggling in pain after being split in two. Luo Guang stopped running and looked back at the night demon who was holding up his body and staring at him. The night demon was the only one standing around him. Finally seeing the enemy's figure, the night demon roared, and his arms used up the last bit of his strength to attack Luo Guang. You! A voice suddenly appeared in Luo Guang's mind, but it was soon interrupted. He looked back at the night demon that attacked him and split it in half vertically. The voice in his mind seemed to disappear after he chopped it off. Is this because of the Harlan virus? But why can the night demon also use his mind to communicate? Luo Guang looked at the other enemies around him who were struggling to learn from the night demon and said to himself. He did not feel soft-hearted because the other party spoke. It was not the first time he encountered a zombie that could talk. Before, in the Tranver Valley, he had been fighting with the Blood Plague zombies and became their boss. Whether it was the Blood Plague zombies or the night demons in front of him, they could be said to be new species, but these problems were not what Luo Guang, a human, should think about now. After dealing with the night demons around him, Luo Guang looked up at the high platform of the temple. The Virgin Mary appeared there, followed by a team of night demons with iron armor on their limbs and helmets showing only their eyes and mouths. Because of the claws on their hands, those night demons could not use human weapons, so Luo Guang did not see any weapons that could threaten him. Looking at Luo Guang below, the Holy Mother did not speak, but the voice sounded in his mind. You are much stronger than I thought. Luo Guang couldn't hear the emotion contained in the words of the Virgin Mary. He tried to reply in a similar way to the hint given by the T. Veronica virus-infected object before, it's just a night demon vegetable. This chapter is not finished yet, please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. It seems that you are not an ordinary traveler. This was originally a one-way communication ability. The Virgin Mary was a little surprised that Luo Guang could use this ability not long after absorbing the Harlan virus. But this is not beyond the scope of understanding, because the night demon can use telepathy after evolving again. I am just an ordinary human. Humph, you have inhaled the blue mist and your body has been infected by the Harlan virus. Otherwise, you can't hear my telepathy at all. The Virgin Mary paused and continued to convey, although I don't know why you don't have the characteristics of the night demon, you are no longer a human. Only by joining us can you get a glimmer of hope. No, I am a human, from the beginning to the end. Luo Guang's answer was firm. The air was so quiet, and the telepathic dialogue between the two sides continued. Luo Guang quickly became proficient and discovered something. Each night demon is like a signal sending and receiving station. He does not need to see the specific location of a night demon and then locate the coordinates. As long as there is this thought, the location of the base station that can receive the signal will automatically appear in the mind. The night demons that appear in the mind now are all in the old city, so there is probably a range limit. The principle is unknown, but this shows that the Virgin Mary can remotely control those night demons, and it is very likely that the Virgin Mary is the leader of all the night demons in Harlan City now. Too optimistic? Even if you are rescued from Harlan City, you have to go through the virus test of those anti-biochemical organizations. Do you think you can hide and not be discovered? Although Luo Guang has eliminated many of his men, the combat power of the other party alone is enough to make up for his losses, so the Virgin Mary still plans to get Luo Guang. Now it is just a prelude. According to the Virgin Mary's previous experience, after destroying the other party's will as a human being, it is very simple to control it again, and it will not destroy the other party's IQ. If it were not for this, the Virgin Mary would not speak to Luo Guang kindly. 3 times is more than 3 times, and now she has been defeated by Luo Guang for the 3rd time. Yes. Luo Guang naturally did not explain the reason, but his firm answer made the Virgin Mary feel a little difficult to deal with. The other party was stubborn. In that case, don't blame me for being rude. No matter who you are, you can't stop my revenge. The so-called revenge of the other party should be something like a test subject in the research institute. In fact, in this regard, Luo Guang and the other party have the same goal. Before, he did not propose cooperation because he did not know the other party's intention. But when the other party was in the ritual room and he pretended to be unconscious, Luo Guang believed what the other party said. The other party is not stupid. Since she wants to control Luo Guang, there is no need for her to say such things. Thinking of this, Luo Guang replied, I didn't say I would stop your revenge. Every time you attack first, I am merciful that I didn't kill you all, okay. He didn't expect the other party to turn against him first, even though he was the victim. The Virgin Mary replied, weren't you the one who attacked my void priest at the beginning? You really did a good job of getting away with it. I was just asking questions. If you hadn't shown up, I wouldn't have killed him. Luo Guang naturally wouldn't count this head on the other party, but what he said was also true. He had no intention of silencing him. But speaking of it, you don't seem to know the exact location of the institute. Then what revenge are you talking about? The biochemical crisis in Harlan City won't last too long. He directly changed the subject. This is also what the Virgin Mary is worried about now. She has spent most of her time on enlightenment, but she has never received any information from the Institute. Instead, she has been constantly getting information about the Harlan virus. In enlightenment, she saw various test tubes and equipment, researchers in white coats coming and going in a hurry, and experimental subjects lying on the operating table. Even in one enlightenment, she personally performed an experiment on the experimental subject from a first-person perspective. At this time, hearing the other party's words, the Virgin Mary could only respond with silence. Luo Guang knew that he had hit the enemy's weak spot, so he struck while the iron was hot and said, relying on yourself alone, even with the Void Cult and your men behind you, you can't deal with the forces that can build a research institute under the city. He didn't think the other party's revenge plan was a good plan, and continued, if you want revenge, you still have to rely on the power of international official organizations such as FBC or B.S.A. The Virgin Mary knew that it would be difficult to complete revenge with only her men, otherwise she wouldn't be eager to get Luo Guang, but she had her own difficulties, so she couldn't rely on anti-biochemical organizations such as FBC or BSAA to complete revenge. Sighing, the Virgin Mary took off her full coverage mask, revealing her face inside. There was no hair on her head, and half of the skin on her scalp fell off, revealing the blood-red muscle tissue underneath. The most important thing was that the other party's lower jaw was split in half, which was the most conspicuous symbol of the Night Devil. Are you a Night Devil? Luo Guang said, a little surprised. To be precise, the Virgin Mary is a variant of the Harlan Night Devil, the Perception Night Devil. Only the enlightened sons of the Sun tribesmen who absorb a large amount of Harlan virus in a short period of time have the probability of mutating into this kind of perceptive night demon. This kind of Night Devil has stronger physical fitness than ordinary Night Devil, and more importantly, it has the ability of spiritual will, which allows it to lead the Night Devil tribe and control those creatures infected with the Harlan virus. Ordinary Night Devil can only communicate through the air after evolution, and cannot control other infected objects. This chapter is not over yet, please click on the next page to continue reading. That's right, so it is impossible for me to cooperate with those anti-biochemical organizations for revenge. The Virgin Mary does not want to be caught for experiments before revenge. She instinctively does not trust those organizations. Luo Guang looked at the other party. If the other party is a Night Devil, then the influence of the blue smoke must be known, which means that the other party knows that she is infecting those believers with the Harlan virus. Is your current appearance caused by the research institute? Or is it caused by the blue mist? Luo Guang observed the other party's appearance and felt something was wrong. Although the Virgin Mary looks very similar to those Night Devils, her skin has not fallen off completely, and she still maintains the ability to speak and reason of humans. The Virgin Mary knew that her previous conversations with him were all half true and half false, but the other party gave her such a strange feeling that she still didn't know the other party's true purpose. Her current situation is that there is a variable in her plan, but she feels helpless about that variable. Harlan virus stock solution. I was injected with the first tube of virus stock solution developed by the Research Institute, and then I was directly transformed from a human into a night demon. Is it the thing you injected me? Luo Guang was very sure. Aren't you unconscious? Blue mist has never failed, and the Virgin Mary was surprised by this. Luo Guang did not answer such an obvious question, and asked, in this case, where did you get these blue mist stock solutions? I know how to make virus stock solutions through the enlightenment of the Sun God. The Virgin Mary's words made Luo Guang unable to refute. Enlightenment can't explain this thing. Luo Guang now has mental power, but he can't predict the future. He didn't believe in this thing before, but now that his mental power has come out, he is in a state of half belief and half doubt. If it's to destroy the Institute, our goal is the same. Luo Guang didn't want to talk in a roundabout way, so he directly said his real goal. As the night deepened, the Virgin Mary asked loudly in Luo Guang's mind, "Who are you? Do you know any information about this institute? For example, which force is behind it?" Luo Guang noticed that the other party's temperament had changed slightly, as if he had entered a fighting posture, as if he would fight if he didn't say it. But he had a hunch that if he couldn't give the answer the other party wanted, they might still have to fight. A survivor of the biochemical crisis. I just think that the FBC announcement is problematic, so I came here to investigate. As for which force this Harlan City Institute is, I don't know. The Virgin Mary did not answer, her eyes emitting a faint golden light, and launched a mental attack on Luo Guang. She did not believe the other party's ambiguous words, but believed in her own judgment and the information she got in person. The bloodthirstiness of the night demon did not have no effect on the Virgin Mary. At night, It also affected the Virgin Mary's judgment, making her more impulsive. And this influence will become deeper and deeper. Sooner or later, she will become a monster that only knows how to kill and hunt at night. If it weren't for the sense of danger brought by Luo Guang, she might have been impatient and attacked at the beginning. Of course, the Holy Mother did not notice this, and she gave a reasonable explanation to her behavior that was inconsistent with her character. Facing the enemy's mental attack, Luo Guang's countermeasure was very simple. The mental power of this world needs to rely on a real carrier, so the carrier of the opponent's mental attack naturally needs the Harlan virus, so he had a countermeasure and directly blocked the reception function of the Harlan virus. Luo Guang smiled at the Holy Mother's eyes that were emitting a faint light, and waved the straight knife in his hand like a handsome flower, and then rushed towards the Holy Mother with a shocked face. Evolution begins with Resident Evil. Author, Wei Tongmiao. Chapter 326. The Virgin Mary's night demons moved faster than her orders. 2 night demons stepped forward and stood in front of the Virgin Mary, responsible for protecting her, while the other night demons were responsible for intercepting and destroying the enemy, just as they had practiced countless times before. They were indeed more elite than the night demons that besieged him before, but unfortunately they were still far behind Luo Guang's. Now he didn't have full firepower, and with only cold weapons, these night demons were no match for him. With this kind of combat power, the security of the Institute only needed to block the door with machine guns, and no matter how many night demons came, it would be useless. Even if the Virgin Mary used blue mist to open the way, the Institute would not lack that kind of antivirus equipment. As for secretly letting blue mist into the Institute, she would wait until she found the door of the Institute. So Luo Guang sneered at the Virgin Mary's plan and thought it was too childish. In the air, neither side had a leverage point, and the other side launched an attack from top to bottom, so Luo Guang was obviously at a disadvantage. However, for the enemy standing in front of him, Luo Guang cut across with a knife, and then continued to hit the enemy's cut position, knocking the enemy in half. Although he felt that it seemed okay to hit it directly without using the knife, he would not be able to jump to the high platform in one step. And the opponent was also stupid, rushing towards Luo Guang together, which would result in the remaining night demons directly colliding with each other after Luo Guang broke through, and then all rolling under the temple. The Holy Mother leaned back. Although she looked like a night demon, Luo Guang still saw the other party's eyes flickering and a trace of fear, because her biggest trump card was easily resolved by him. Luo Guang raised the knife to the throat of the Holy Mother and sneered, "Are you going to rely on these night demons to take revenge? Who else can I rely on?" "You," the Holy Mother kept thinking about how to survive. Luo Guang nodded and said, "Yes, you can only rely on me." What conditions? The Holy Mother knew that there is no free lunch in the world. Submit to me and serve me. Luo Guang needs to form a special army to do dirty things. Where there is light, there is darkness. Now the competition between various forces is becoming more and more fierce. He must prepare in advance to deal with the enemy's unruly means. He can't always solve or retaliate against the other party. If you often walk by the river, you will get your shoes wet. If he does it every time, he will be discovered sooner or later. This is why he wants to separate his identity from the GIMZ team, just to prevent his secrets from being discovered, causing a chain reaction and involving the GIMZ team. For this shadow team, Luo Guang's recruitment standards are relatively loose, and he does not require the other party to be human. The Virgin Mary is only concerned with revenge on the Research Institute and the forces behind it, which is at least better than the psychopath who wants to retaliate against the whole world when things go wrong. But the difference between this new team and the GIMZ team is that the people in this team will be strictly controlled by Luo Guang, that is, all people will be controlled by Luo Guang with the power of the virus to ensure that they will not make trouble and bite back. In response to Luo Guang's answer, the Virgin Mary had no other choice and said, "As long as you can help me get revenge, I am willing." Luo Guang nodded. Let me make it clear first, I am an anti-biochemical warrior, so I will not accept your men. Especially since the night demon is already a new species, its bloodthirsty nature has destined them to be unable to coexist with humans. At this time, he didn't know that this bloodthirstiness also affected the Virgin Mary, and thought that the Virgin Mary was special. For the Virgin Mary, the night demon and the Void Church were just tools for her revenge, so she didn't say much and nodded. By the way, what's your name? The two had a conflict when they met, and they had never introduced themselves. Luo Guang suddenly thought of this question. Mary Shelley. But I don't know if this is my name. There are many blank spaces in my memory of being experimented on in the institute, and even those fragments of memory are vague, so I can't find the entrance to the institute. What about this name? It's a name that appeared in my memory, but I don't know if it's my name. It's all because of those bastards who experimented on me. The Virgin Mary said so, but Luo Guang suddenly thought of the operation that can erase and modify memories, and asked, do you remember your childhood? Mary was stunned, thought for a while and said, I can't remember, only the fragments of memory when I was an experimental subject, and the memory after I woke up in the garbage dump. This is very strange. After Luo Guang said this, after telling the other party about the memory erasing surgery, he continued, since you are an experimental subject, why do you have to erase your previous memories? Generally speaking, those cruel experiments will not erase certain memories so accurately. What do you mean? Do you mean my memories are false? I don't know, but your situation is indeed strange. Your innate ability has not given you any inspiration. Mary shook her head and said, no, the inspiration I have received so far is about the situation of the Harlan virus, such as the method of making blue mist I mentioned before. According to the legend of the Son of the Sun tribe, isn't that the ability of inspiration something like predicting the future? Luo Guang had always thought that the method of making blue mist was inspired was the other party's excuse. But in this case, he had a guess. Is it possible that what you see in the consciousness space is not enlightenment, but the memory deep in your mind? I remember that some amnesiacs can recall their memories through hypnosis or meditation. This chapter is not over yet, please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. If it is as Luo Guang speculated, Mary's identity is very likely not an experimental subject, but a researcher of the mysterious organization. Afterwards, because of something that happened, she was subjected to a memory clearing and modification operation, sent to the operating table, and finally abandoned in the garbage dump. Just as the two were talking, the night demons surrounded them, but did not attack. They made a low roar from their mouths and looked at Luo Guang vigilantly. Luo Guang ignored it for the time being. These night demons were just vigilant and did not really show hostility, and his sense of danger was not triggered. But he was still vigilant, waiting for the Virgin Mary to relax her vigilance, and then inject her with the T. Veronica virus, base station version. This T. Veronica virus is very different from the previous version, more simplified, with only two functions left. One is to receive Luo Guang's control, suggestion, and other mental power, and the second is that it contains the manufacturing gene of the eternal toxin. As long as Luo Guang wants, he can take the life of the person implanted with the virus at any time. After the Berlin incident, the eternal virus was also extracted from the eternal zombies by major interest groups. But those who were controlled by Luo Guang and were infected with the eternal toxin cannot be saved unless the antidote is in hand. According to the system and Luo Guang's tests, the killing ability and range of the eternal toxin are very wide. Coupled with Luo Guang's enhancement, those mainstream biochemical virus infections in the world today are not immune. Hearing Luo Guang's hypothesis, Mary felt that it made sense. From another perspective, the reason why the Sun God has been giving these inspirations may also be to imply that the other party's hypothesis is true. Mary nodded and replied, then I will ask the Sun God from another angle to get new inspiration. See if I can get back all my memories and find a way to enter the institute. Luo Guang nodded, followed the other party, and walked into the Harlan Temple. Turn the time back to today's daytime. Jill and others from the BSAA unit completed the investigation of the freight center in the new city of Harlan in the morning, cleared a wave of zombies, found some clues, and then evacuated the freight center. According to the original plan, Jill and others would go directly to other areas of the new city to rescue the survivors according to the ammunition after transmitting the clues, but they were called back by Samus for supplies. Samus, why did you call us back? Jill and Samus met alone and asked. According to the original plan, shouldn't we rescue every minute? Something unexpected happened, and Samus didn't say it clearly in the radio communication, so Jill asked this question. Samus handed the printed information to Jill and asked her to listen and read it. The intelligence officer of our unit sent new information about the survivors in the civilian area. Although Samus said so, Jill still thought that the intelligence officer was Luo Guang, and did not doubt her judgment. Civilian area, Jill didn't quite understand what Samus meant, but she had doubted whether the F.B.C's information was correct before. Sams continued, there are more survivors in the civilian area, and they have established a radio communication system, so the survivors can communicate with each other to confirm the situation. As for the new city area, I asked the person you recommended to investigate the situation in the FBC area, and found that the Turkish military and the FBC seemed to have some kind of deal. She did not say the guess of rescue. Are you saying that the FBC is hiding something from us? Jill asked. Sams nodded and replied, that's right. In order to protect the investigators, I didn't investigate in depth, but at least we know that the other party is secretly plotting other things, so it's better for us not to go to the new city area and get involved with the FBC for the time being. Jill recalled the situation when he came to this place to perform the mission, and agreed with the other party's statement that the FBC area did reveal something unusual. In fact, the efficiency of using satellites and helicopters to find survivors is very poor. Especially the noise of helicopters will attract zombies, which will only backfire. It's just that the FBC has no experience and thought it was the same as the previous security battle. But the strange thing is that the FBC found many more survivors in the most densely populated area of the new city than in the civilian area. At the meeting, although Jill had doubts, she couldn't bring them up without evidence. And she also heard a little about what Chris encountered in the Portland incident, so it was right to keep a distance from the FBC. I called my friend in the army to see if I could find out what they were hiding. Now let's focus on the rescue mission in the civilian area. As she said that, she opened the map, pointed to the location of the twin apartments, and said, that's where the most civilian survivors are, temporarily calling themselves the Tower Force. In addition, there is a force called the Rice Gang, but that force is a gang organization, so you should be careful when you perform the mission. Should we save the gang members too? Yes, but we need them to cooperate with us. We can't risk our lives to save people. And according to intelligence, these less gangs have previously engaged in $0 shopping, smashing and looting, and have also had large-scale conflicts with other survivors, so you have to be careful. Okay, I understand. Jill nodded, then took the important intelligence back to her team and prepared to explain the situation to others. This chapter is not over yet, please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. Where's Sienna? After returning to the tent where the soldiers rested, Jill confirmed the number of people and asked Crisp, the captain of the Echo Squad. Crisp was using a fast-loading machine to load bullets into the magazine of an assault rifle, and replied casually, I'm going to the bathroom. Okay. Time is running out, I'll start explaining the situation first, and then you can tell her, Crisp. Just as Crisp was about to nod, he saw Sienna running towards him from the corner of his eye. She's back. Not only did Samus send people to investigate and monitor the FBC, but the other party also sent people over and confirmed the situation with the insider. Back to the FBC camp, he reported the intelligence from the insider to the person in charge of the biochemical crisis in Harlan City. Very good, the person in charge looked like he had succeeded in his evil plan. Are we going to report the other party next? They are replenishing ammunition and may continue to set off later. No hurry, I will take care of the rest. The person in charge waved his hand to let the other party go out, and he wanted to contact Morgan to report the situation. Because they are still dealing with the affairs of Harlan City, in order to avoid unnecessary trouble, the FBC did not intend to trouble the BSAA immediately. In the future, the FBC will let those who have nothing to do with their organization do the reporting, so that even if there is an accident, they will not get into trouble. Commander, the person in charge saluted and reported the report. Only by contacting and reporting at any time can we ensure that the mission will not deviate from the direction of the target and can be adjusted in time. Morgan returned the salute and said, "What's the situation with the cooperation with Suleiman?" "It's a bit troublesome. Our original cooperation was that we rescued people, and then he gave us the intelligence in his hand, but the other party regretted it now." The person in charge of the Harlan City mission continued, "I think we were fooled. He didn't have any intelligence at all. Besides, if we hadn't helped him cover and arrange, he would have been dismissed when he sent the special forces to do private business." The Turkish government felt that since organizations such as the FBC were coming, there was no need to send its own troops deep into dangerous areas. At that time, casualties would only waste military expenses, so Suleiman's behavior of sending troops was actually illegal. Originally, Suleiman planned to let the FBC people rescue his brother directly, but the FBC would not let him take the blame for a verbal intelligence. In the end, both sides made concessions and reached the current agreement. Now his brother Hassan is back, but he has a wound bitten by a zombie, so Suleiman thinks that the FBC did not protect him well. The FBC felt that the other party was making trouble unreasonably. "You sent the special forces yourself. How can you blame the FBC for your brother's injury?" In fact, Suleiman's brother Hassan was bitten because he attracted the attention of the zombies when he sent out a distress signal. In the end, he was only bitten once. He did not mutate for the time being. It was good enough that he left Harlan City alive. Morgan looked at the latest report from his own research institute and asked, "How is that guy now? Has he become a zombie?" "Not yet, because he has wounds on his body. He is now isolated in our camp, and we dare not let him leave casually." The person in charge cooperated with Suleiman, but he really didn't need to look at the other party's face to act. "Tell him that our FBC has now developed a Harlan virus inhibitor. Although it cannot completely eliminate the virus, it can delay the progress of his brother's transformation into a zombie." Morgan continued, "If he really wants to save his brother, he must cooperate with us to develop an antidote and tell us the information he has." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Evolution begins with Resident Evil. Author, Wei Tongmiao. Chapter 327. Outside Harran, in the FBC camp, a patient was tied to a bed in the isolation area, and two soldiers in urban camouflage uniforms were guarding him. They were not guarding against the patient to prevent him from hurting others, but guarding against others from hurting the patient. The patient was Hassan, the younger brother of Suleiman, the head of the Turkish military, who was bitten by the zombie. At first, at Hassan's suggestion, the special forces planned to cooperate in concealing the fact that Hassan was injured, and then make a decision after VIP and Suleiman met. But Hassan, who was rescued, looked sick, and he could not hide it from the FBC people after returning to the hotel rooftop. The medical staff at the temporary camp on the rooftop noticed this very keenly, and immediately asked someone to drag the other party, and then reported it to Captain Jones, the person in charge of the rooftop. The special forces naturally did not dare to let the FBC people isolate Hassan, otherwise they would be waiting for them to wear shoes when they returned. But the Turkish people now have no way to contact their superiors, and finally the combatants on both sides are on the verge of a fight, and the smell of gunpowder in the air is getting stronger and stronger. After Captain Jones communicated with his superiors, he found the captain of the other side, and then both sides took a step back and sent the other side back to the FBC troops for isolation. Suleiman came to the FBC camp again, looking at his brother through the transparent plastic window. Standing next to him was the head of the FBC. The head said, "Have you thought it through? Your brother's condition will only become more and more troublesome if it is delayed." He had told Suleiman what Morgan had told him, and it was his job to talk about it next. It was also the plan of the head to make an appointment with Suleiman to see his brother, in order to play the family card. But what he is most worried about now is whether Suleiman's intelligence is true. Suleiman turned his head and looked at the other party, saying, "It's just you and me, find a place to talk." The head knew that the other party had given in, and immediately asked his men to arrange a place and prepare coffee. The two sat down and waited for coffee to be served. The person in charge asked, "What is that information?" Suleiman asked back, "When can your antidote be ready? Didn't I say that before? We have only made the inhibitor now, and we still lack a lot of key information and materials for the antidote. We need more information." According to the analysis of the Institute, the Harlan virus in the night demon's body may have clues to the antidote, so it was proposed early that the FBC combat troops should quickly capture the night demon and bring it back for dissection and research, but so far, they have not caught it. My brother will be the first to be injected with the antidote. Is this really good? Aren't you worried about the success rate of the antidote? Suleiman obviously didn't know about the development of the antidote, so he thought it was best to be the first to be injected with the antidote. The FBC person in charge continued, "It's useless to say this now. Your brother hasn't been injected with the inhibitor yet. This is what you should be most concerned about now." Damn it, Suleiman knew that the other party was threatening him, but he had no choice but to sigh and tell the secret intelligence of the army. "We are different from your FBC, we know our own territory very well and will not investigate so frivolously," he said with thorns in his words because he was very unhappy. The person in charge didn't care about it at all. As long as he could complete the tasks assigned by Morgan, it didn't matter if he was scolded a few times. Morgan's purpose of establishing the FBC was not to satisfy everyone. If he did things according to this goal, he would not be able to do anything. Suleiman saw that the other party did not refute him, and felt bored, so he told the information. After the first biochemical crisis broke out in Harlan City, our intelligence department activated the intelligence personnel there to investigate the incident. The Turkish government would naturally not leave all the things to the FBC. According to the intelligence so far, this biochemical crisis seems to be related to a cult called the Void Cult. Although there is freedom of belief, other sects will still be discriminated against to a certain extent. Cult. It's also an old routine. The person in charge became interested and interrupted. Suleiman ignored him and continued, "It was originally just a small sect that believed in the sun god. The believers in it were basically from the Sons of the Sun tribe in Harlan City, and there were not many believers. But according to investigations, this sect became extremely active after the first biochemical crisis, and began to promote the story of the sun god saving the world ravaged by plague and disease, and recruited believers. One of our intelligence agents successfully infiltrated the Void Cult and became a member of it. Then he heard something from other believers." Suleiman stopped here and looked at the other party. The head of the FBC understood what the other party meant and ordered the people waiting outside to inject Hassan with a virus inhibitor. After Suleiman confirmed that his brother who had been injected with a virus inhibitor had no problems, he returned to the room and sat down. Continuing the previous topic, he said, the Void cult received many believers when the first biochemical crisis broke out, and from the words of those believers, a miracle was mentioned. Miracle? The head asked curiously. If you joined the Void cult at that time, you wouldn't be attacked by zombies. Are you kidding? Wait until I finish. Suleiman didn't want to answer something he didn't know the answer to while talking. He only knew about intelligence matters and continued, our intelligence agents naturally would not believe this kind of thing, but when the FBC was investigating, the Void cult went dormant again, so his clues were cut off and he could not see any examples. It wasn't until the bite incidents occurred frequently in the old city and the Void cult took action again that the intelligence agents finally knew what the Void cult was doing. Suleiman did not sell out and said directly, Void sect followers can only officially join the Void sect by inhaling a blue smoke. He has personally experienced the second outbreak, and indeed, as the Void sect advertises, he will not be bitten even if he stands in front of zombies. Because the intelligence agent joined the Void cult and became a peripheral believer after the FBC solved the first incident, he didn't know about blue mist at first. What else? This is important information. I got this information without paying any price, and I will make a lot of money, the person in charge thought. No more. That intelligence agent knew about this, didn't he investigate it? Obviously the person in charge didn't believe what the other party said, and continued, Suleiman, you have to know that the inhibitor has a time limit, and you need to time it before the antidote is released. Injected. Anger burst out in Suleiman's eyes, but in the end he seemed to be deflated. He leaned back on the chair and said, the intelligence agent had a report to investigate and collect that kind of blue mist, but just after this report, the man lost news. You guys didn't send anyone over after that. The time for investigating and collecting intelligence is unpredictable, so regular reporting takes a long time. By the time the Intelligence Bureau discovers something is wrong, it's already too late. The sports meeting is about to begin, and you know what happens after that, Suleiman explained. Did he report anything else before losing contact? The person in charge asked again. Suleiman did not mention the fact that the transaction content was to exchange information for FBC to save people after recalling it for a while, he said. The intelligence officer also mentioned this, and the Virgin Mary of the Void sect lived in seclusion. Every day wears a mask. As he said that, he suddenly lowered his head and thought of a piece of information that he originally thought was a joke. It's just something that the intelligence officer reported in detail according to his duties. Our Lady once predicted at the sect gathering after the first outbreak that the biological crisis in Harlan City was not over yet, and would spread to the entire city. During the day, a twin apartment in a civilian area. Jed here in the tower gave his younger brother a good education, and the two broke up on bad terms. Her brother Rahim has had enough of his sister's overprotectiveness. Rahim was involved in all of these things, including assisting survivors to live in twin apartments, distributing food and drinking water, assisting Leader Harris in managing park hours, executing outing plans and repairing tower radio equipment, etc. In his opinion, he was no longer the kid who wiped his nose all day long and needed his sister's protection. But in Jed's opinion, his brother was wrong to act without permission, so he used this and the danger Rahim encountered this time to deal with his brother. And Rahim was not to be outdone, and directly retorted, others don't understand radio matters, so I can only go there in person. If you hadn't stopped me from going out to perform tasks every time, I wouldn't have been inexperienced. If you support me, I won't do it without telling you. Rahim's words made Jade gag on the next words, but soon an inexplicable anger surged in her heart, causing her to fight back with an even more unpleasant word, describing Rahim as an arrogant and helpless person. Lee, a person who does things without thinking. In the end, the two broke up unhappy and each found a place to sulk. Jade ran to Amir and wanted to talk to him about his brother, while asking his boyfriend to comfort Rahim. Amir and Rahim get along better with each other than he does. However, she searched everywhere Amir might be, but couldn't find him. Harris, has Amir gone on a mission? Jade approached the leader of the tower forces. Harris raised his hand to stop the other person's words and pointed to the headset on his head. He was communicating with other survivors. Yes, we are trying to contact the outside world. If it is feasible and rescue can be contacted, our rooftop here is a better rescue point. Harris wanted to invite the relatively small number of survivors to gather together and evacuate zombie attacks on the rooftop that were not easily attracted by the noise of the helicopter. Okay, by then. Harris hung up the communication, put down the headset, turned to look at Jed, and said, "Sorry, Jed, what did you just ask?" After Jed repeated the question again, he replied, "Huh? I didn't have a mission to let Amir go out. I thought he was with your siblings." Harris knew that Rahim would definitely be criticized or even beaten when he came back, so he did not ask Amir to do anything. He likes this young man Rahim very much and is very helpful. I just drove around and didn't see him. Harris began to feel something was wrong, so he took out his walkie-talkie and contacted the guard at the door of the apartment building. The reply was that Amir had already gone out early this morning. He looked at Jed and saw the same confusion on his face as he did. He said, "This Amir is not Rahim. He can't just run away without saying anything." Jed scratched his head with both hands. He couldn't understand what Amir had done, so he said, "Can we contact him using the radio on the intercom?" Harris tried once, but there was no response. He shrugged and comforted him, "Amir is also an adult. He shouldn't mess around. This chapter is not over yet. Please click on the next page to continue reading." No, Jed's uneasiness grew and he said, "Harris, I'll go out and find him." "Do you know where he is?" "I don't know, but I can only go find him." Amir would not leave for no reason. Something must have happened, so Jed must go find him. "I'll find someone to accompany you." Amir is also a good friend of Harris. Naturally, he would not let Jed go alone, but before he finished speaking, the intercom on the table made a sound. "Shasha, this is Yusuf at the observation post." "Boss, did you send Rahim out?" "What?" Harris was startled by the other party's words. He looked at Jed, whose face turned black, and quickly explained, "I didn't give him any orders." "Where did he go?" "There are 3 of them. They went to the southwest. I remember that was the territory of the Rice Gang. Because it was the territory of the Rice Gang, there were no other survivors settled there." "What is that idiot doing there?" Jed felt so annoyed. Her boyfriend was missing, and her brother didn't let her worry. Rahim sneaked out again to be angry. He felt that his sister looked down on him, so he planned to do something. The 2 parkourers he brought with him were his best friends since childhood. They were also ambitious young people. When they heard Rahim's plan, they immediately raised their hands to agree. This plan sounded simple. The first thing was to go to the Rice Gang's arsenal to steal explosives, and then to blow up a known entrance to the Night Demon's lair. It not only disgusted the hated Les Gang, but also temporarily eliminated the threat of the biggest zombie enemy in their civilian area. "Calm down, Jade. Rahim has just set off. You should contact Masood directly to chase Rahim back. Masood is a parkourer in the tower force. He is also responsible for going out to perform tasks. He has cooperated with Jade several times. Except for Amir, she and Jade cooperated the most." Harris immediately arranged it. In order to reassure Jade, he added, "Amir is not known where he is now. I will ask other survivors if they have seen Amir." Okay, Jade didn't even have time to say thank you. While running out, he contacted Masood on the walkie-talkie. Harris picked up the headset distressedly, adjusted the radio, and began to contact other survivors to ask them to help keep an eye on it. Evolution begins with Resident Evil. Author, Wei Tongmiao. Chapter 328. The next day, Amir followed Kellen and the others from afar to the territory of the Void cult. Everyone saw that the believers were burning corpses and thick smoke was rising. Crane and others who had just arrived at the territory of the Void sect did not know that the Void sect had coexisted with zombies before, so it was not surprising that the believers burned the corpses of zombies. On the contrary, Crane is a little envious that those believers will not be attacked by zombies, so it can be said that it is easy to deal with the zombies in Harlan City. Both Kellen and Wan Kyanglin wore hooded robes of the same color as other believers. Such robes were quite common in Harlan City, so they spent a little effort to find suitable hooded robes. They were going to approach the Harran Temple, the core area of the Void religion, so dressing up as believers was the best choice. And they have not given up weapons such as assault rifles, so wearing robes can also play a role in hiding weapons. The believers in the Void sect's territory were busy, so no one paid attention to them who had just come in from the outside. No. She is my wife? You have no right to do that. Kellen looked around and saw several believers standing in front of a bungalow. Inside the house, there was a believer who was hugging a zombie tightly, with snot and tears streaming from his nose. Nasiruddin, you also heard the instruction of the Holy Mother this morning. Zombies will bring disaster to us. Human corpses have different paths. You should recognize the reality. The believer who speaks is the neighbor of the other person and knows the other person's affairs. No. My wife is still alive and can still respond to my words. Nasiruddin could no longer listen to anyone's words. Oh, Shalu, he still doesn't listen. What should we do? Force him, another believer asked. He no longer wanted to waste time here. Unlike some believers, this person hates zombies very much. Before, he only tolerated them under the orders of the Holy Mother. Let's do this. I'll go find the priest and ask. You guys can watch from here. Okay, hurry up. After Crane and others passed by there, he asked in a low voice, that man is holding a zombie and crying, is it so strange? And from what they said, it seems that the Void cult decided to deal with those zombies this morning. It's none of our business. It's better to be less nosy. It's understandable for that kind of person, but it's best not to sympathize. Wan Kyanglin glanced at the surrounding situation and whispered, we have entered the enemy's base camp, be careful. While Kellen and the two were walking towards the Harran Temple, Luo Guangzheng and Our Lady were standing on the high platform basking in the sun. According to Luo Guang, spending more time in the sun is beneficial to inhibiting the hemophilia of Harran virus in the body. Last night, Virgin Mary meditated from a new angle and got a lot of enlightenment. In other words, she successfully recalled most of the memories, at least all the memories she needed. Jasmine Amir, this is her real name. And the name of Mary Shelley is actually the name of her favorite writer. The more famous works include Frankenstein, the story of modern Prometheus, and so on. Jasmine's favorite is a famous quote from Frankenstein, deep inside of me is a love you can't imagine and a rage you can't believe. If I can't satisfy one, I'll indulge the other. Virgin Jasmine is indeed a researcher at the Institute of Mysterious Organizations, as Luo Guang speculated. Luo Guang asked her if she knew the forces behind the research institute, but the other party said that she did not know. This was not because she couldn't remember it due to memory reasons, but she didn't know it from beginning to end, and no one in the research institute cared about these things. They were all busy researching in the research room. But she remembers very clearly the purpose of this institute, which is to lead the evolution of all mankind and allow mankind, whose evolution has stalled, to make further progress. Jasmine agrees with the research purpose of the institute. Hearing what the other party said, Luo Guang was stunned for 30 seconds. Not long after he traveled to this world, there was a person who said similar words to him. It was the Apocalypse Wang Wei who suddenly disappeared and could not be contacted. She once said this when introducing her own organization. Seeing Luo Guang's reaction, Mother Jasmine immediately asked, Do you know this sentence? Someone once told me this. But then she suddenly disappeared and lost contact. When she heard Luo Guang say this, she understood that Luo Guang didn't know the name of the organization either. But this matter is not important now, so she continued to tell him what she recalled. The initial biochemical crisis that broke out in Harlan City was due to an oversight in the disposal of waste in our research institute, and there was surviving Harlan virus. As the research waste is shipped out of the institute. What happened after that? At that time, my memory had been erased and modified, and I don't know the specific situation. But I feel that other forces are causing trouble. Although Jasmine encountered unfair and cruel treatment there, she still spoke with evidence. The institute does not have the authority to release viruses, and the Harran virus has not been fully studied, which is not in line with the purpose of the institute. Aren't those night demons considered human evolution? If we are no longer human after evolution, then what's the point? Jasmine continued. If you let the Harlan virus infect humans and mutate into night demons, it will only provoke a war between the two races. According to the researchers at that institute, a race that is overcome by ultraviolet rays and unable to reproduce naturally is a kind of degeneration, so they are even less interested in night demons. Yes, the night demon cannot give birth to offspring through normal reproduction. This chapter is not over yet, please click the next page to continue reading. This situation actually has advantages and disadvantages. At least it only takes about 10 days to cultivate a night demon from the beginning to the birth. If the Harlan virus provided is sufficient, this time can be further shortened, and after the transformation into a night demon, it is considered an adult and can do various things such as hunting. Although war is a catalyst for the development of science and technology, it only means that science and technology have been developed, and humans are still stagnant. As Wang Wei said before, humans are too dependent on technology. If there is no benefit, the institute will not take the initiative to release the virus to Harlan City. And with the precedent of Raccoon City, Harlan City will be nuclearized if we are not careful, so the institute will also evacuate, which will only add trouble, the Virgin Jasmine summarized. Unlike the previous statement in the ritual room that the responsibility for the biochemical crisis was put on the institute, Jasmine, who was also angry and wanted revenge, seemed to have changed her personality and code of conduct after getting her memory back. That is to say, some other organization got the Harlan virus and released it deliberately. Luo Guang looked at the other party. He remembered that the other party also had the Harlan virus. Understanding the doubtful look in Luo Guang's eyes, Jasmine replied, "This has nothing to do with our void church. The raw materials of the blue mist are all extracted from the zombies by ourselves. After the first outbreak subsided, we did not let the new believers breathe the blue mist." Luo Guang had a list of bad organizations in his mind, such as Wesker's HCF organization, Tri-Union Company, and Will Pharma Company, etc. Those pharmaceutical companies are busy robbing the legacy of Umbrella Company. And Wesker successfully found the Plaka parasite on the holy island of the Church of Light, but was also discovered by the special forces of the X organization. After a fight between the two sides, Wesker found that he had provoked a hornet's nest. No matter how strong he is, he can only retreat quickly before he is exhausted. However, it is unlikely that these organizations will actively spread the virus, because they have no shortage of death row prisoners for research. There are still several possibilities left, but Luo Guang thinks the biggest possibility is that the biochemical crisis in Harlan City is the work of those biochemical terrorist organizations, and only such organizations often do such things that harm others and benefit themselves. I believe you anyway. There is no evidence, so the presumption of innocence, Luo Guang said, and signaled the other party to continue to tell the information he knew. Jasmine was not greatly moved by this, and continued with the same tone. According to the regulations of the Institute, if a situation that may lead to exposure occurs, the evacuation agreement will be activated, and the headquarters will send people to supervise the evacuation. Luo Guang's eyes lit up, but he didn't speak. Jasmine continued to tell what she knew. During this period, the AI system of the institute will prohibit everyone from entering and leaving until the messenger with the key comes. In addition to these, she also knew the location of the entrance to the institute, but she didn't know more detailed information. After all, she is just an ordinary researcher. As for why Jasmine became a night demon and an experimental subject, it has to start with her bloodline. She was from the Sons of the Sun tribe, and had never awakened her bloodline talent until one day, when she saw something that had not happened in the institute in her dream. This time point was much earlier than in the false memory. Although she thought she was just too tired recently and did not take it seriously, let alone report it, the development of events later proved that Jasmine's prophetic dream was correct. Jasmine, who knew about this, also knew the relationship between the development of the Harlan virus and the bloodline of the Sons of the Sun tribe, so she took the initiative to assist the Institute's research and contribute to the evolution of mankind. In this way, the Institute does not have to think about how to kidnap the Holy Mother of the Void Church all day long. After all, those people are also Jasmine's tribesmen, and kidnapping is also risky. But unexpectedly, not long after she said this, the development of the matter exceeded her expectations and quickly developed in another direction. Other researchers are not all the kind of people who focus on research, and at the same time, the director of the institute, who is the highest level, is even more worried about the performance of the institute. Originally, she thought that she would just lie in bed and enter a meditative state to try to gain enlightenment, and then other researchers could collect data from her brain when she gained enlightenment through various instruments attached to her head. But she didn't expect that when she woke up that day, she forgot that she was a researcher and became an experimental subject of the institute. In order to legitimize the attack on his own people, the director of the institute even fabricated the story of Jasmine's betrayal. After hearing the other party's story, Luo Guang replied, "I understand. Now that you have regained your memory, is your goal still revenge?" "Yes, and after becoming a night demon, I now have some doubts about whether the purpose of the institute is correct. People like us who try to use biochemical viruses to promote human evolution are considered to be dependent on technology. And are they against the laws of nature?" Jasmine said solemnly, "Isn't this arrogance?" Luo Guang remembered his own system, which also aims to promote human evolution, but more of it is that he, the one who walks in the front, starts the first step of evolution, and then spreads the results of evolution through natural reproduction. No matter what, the Institute must solve it, and all research on the Harlan virus except for those related to the antidote must be cleared out. Since he saved the life of the Virgin Mary who turned into a night demon, Luo Guang did not plan to let BSAA intervene in the research institute for the time being. He would let Jill and others come to take credit after the dust settled. This chapter is not over yet, please click on the next page to continue reading. Jasmine nodded first, then shook her head and proposed one thing: there are two good guys in the institute. They are responsible for the development of the antidote for the Harlan virus. If possible, I want to keep them both, which will also help you. As for the other researchers, they are her main revenge targets, and Luo Guang is only interested in capable people. But it is unknown whether the people in that organization have other anti-leakage measures, so he is thinking about whether to open another research institute. Although his current GIMZ institute is protected by a mysterious country that is among the best in the world, it is the right way to prepare more. What are their names? Dr. Imran Zir and Dr. Alan Camden. After saying the names, Jasmine also described the appearance characteristics of the two. But Luo Guang replied, "You are responsible for handing over these two people, and then you will take them away from Harlan City." "Do you trust me so much?" Jasmine was a little surprised. Why did the other party suddenly relax about her? It was obvious that the two had just started working together for a short time. The reason was simple. One night was long enough for Luo Guang to inject the Shinra virus into Jasmine's body, and the method was airborne. The Shinra virus has merged with the Harlan virus, which can completely replace the Harlan virus in the Virgin Mary's body and solve the bloodthirstiness problem caused by the Harlan virus. Jasmine did not notice this because she was concentrating on getting enlightenment and regaining her own memories at that time. Luo Guang followed the Virgin Mary to the second-floor house opposite the building where the main entrance of the research institute was located in her memory, observing the situation opposite. There should be cameras inside, right? Luo Guang asked, otherwise it would be embarrassing for the people in the research institute to see irrelevant people when they came out. Don't worry, I'm ready. The Virgin Mary had asked the believers to be ready. In order to avoid exposing their plan, the believers went to decorate the room early in the morning, making it look like they were requisitioning the room for some kind of mysterious ritual. Because the monitor can also pick up sounds, many believers are now taking turns to pray quietly for the sun god. Well done, Luo Guang thought to himself, and said, the only problem now is how to open the door. The people sent by the headquarters should be on the way. As long as we keep an eye on this place, we will wait for that person sooner or later. Is it possible that the other party has arrived? Jasmine had done everything and said, no, since I took over the Void Sect, I have controlled the Harlan Temple and the entire surrounding area. Luo Guang thought of a question, did you feel that the research institute was below here at that time? Intuition. But now it seems that it was the memory in my subconscious that was hinting at me, Jasmine said. Someone is coming. Luo Guang wanted to say something, but suddenly saw a group of people coming. It was a group of believers wearing grey robes, but in the eyes of Luo Guang and Jasmine, two of them did not have the Harlan virus in their bodies, and they were very conspicuous among the believers. Luo Guang and Jasmine looked at each other and realized that the key to open the door had come.